As the leader of the Booner Pack, I lead from the front.
All right, boys. Lock in.
It's our core foundation, man. Grit.
I'm fired up. I'm fired the f*** up, boys.
It's pumping right now. It's got my juice pumping, boys.
Welcome to Crunch Time Sports with Jeff, Booner, and Lukas. It is April 17th. It is Thursday. You know what that means?
Not really.
From yesterday, today we have Lucas's full first-round mock, and I cannot wait to see the ball knower because I'm going to pick it apart. We're going to be hard on you. You know what I mean? We set higher expectations for your mock. So if you're not living up to that, Klotzy, you're going to get attacked today. So be ready.
Apparently.
I will say this. I did see the mock this morning. And I took
that's no fun.
Well, we all have to see it because it's in our Slack channels. And I was like, I want to see what Klotzy did. You have to prepare. You know what I mean?
Take notes, yeah.
Our profession is preparation, being prepared for everything. So I prepared for the show. At about whatever time it got put in there, it might have been like 9 a.m., whatever it was. I wrote a sticky note down, crumbled it up, and put it in my pocket. I will not take the sticky note out with my comments.
Like the draft day.
Yeah. I wrote 2 names on there, and you'll be questioned.
There is one. No, I would say no. There is 2 names that I didn't have in the first round that I'm like, when we do the
those might be the 2 names I wrote down, and
I guarantee they are.
One of them is horrific.
One of them. Yeah,
you
one of
should.
them you're not.
You should.
One of them nobody's gonna like, but it's just how the board fell.
You should be in jail.
Sometimes when you get into doing those, man, the board falls.
Yeah. I'm like, oh my god, he's still here. I guess he is.
Really? Yeah. It also, man, Brad, the biggest one. Brad spoke today, so we'll have we have ton of clips from that. I mean, he spoke on a bunch of stuff. So Darius, trading up, trading back, his philosophy, reiterating his philosophy. Does it every year. It's almost like you can just expect it in a press conference. He's going to reiterate his philosophy because people ask about it. And then he talked about edges. He talked about wide receivers. No one asked about safeties or offensive linemen, but that's fine. It's all right. I was hoping we got no disrespect to anyone, but I was hoping we got something with the O-line because I was excited for that one.
I was really interested to hear anything on updates on contracts today.
Contracts too. He didn't speak on the contract.
A couple days out of the draft.
You never know. They might have been like, "Hey guys, no contract stuff." Maybe no.
I would have still asked.
Yeah, Booner. Hey,
you're out.
Yeah,
right.
Get him out of here. No, but we'll go through the clips today, man. We got a bunch, and I cannot wait. All the good stuff, and we posted. We covered on our social media. So if you're not following us and you have no idea what I'm talking about, what are you doing? Follow us above. Go ahead, Booner.
Too. I want to shout out the doc too. The doc is. He gives the boys. I'll say this. He gives us like all access into like we're not credentialed, but he's like. I shot him a text this morning. Literally, probably 30 seconds before Brad Holmes stepped onto the stage to do his press conference, and I said, "Doc, can you please ask an update on Zadarius Smith because he was at the Pistons game? If there's anything with him still being in Detroit." And second question, Doc rattles off, "Hey, Zadarius Smith was in Detroit with the Pistons game, still in Detroit. Is there an update on his contract?" And we get, and the people get an answer on Zadarius. So shout out to Doc for getting that for the boys today.
Doc is people, and the Docs. I see comments. A lot of comments love Doc. There's some comments like, "Oh, I hate Doc. Oh, this." People really don't know the human. One of the greatest humans ever. Text us and he'll reach out. "Hey, how you doing? Is anything you'd like me to ask?" It's not even like he has questions, but he's like, "Anything you'd want to know?" I'm like, who does that? You know what I mean? I'm like, yeah, hell yeah, Doc. Like, there's things we want to know. You know what I mean? And then he asked about Zadarius. Boone, you told him, Boone. He asked it. It's a great question. So we have an update on that. So we'll get to all of it. But first, I think the biggest quote from that press conference, if you missed it, and it's kind of a bar. Kind of liked it. It's a Brad quote for sure. I feel like once a year he drops some of these, but just hear Brad. Hear what he had to say on the draft. Man's getting hyped for it.
When you go to see a movie, you don't know what you've never seen the movie. That's the excitement. And so you're fine just watching the movie. And then it's whether the movie's good or bad, and then you can do that. But I don't understand why people can't just watch the draft. And it's like, all right, like, I don't know what's going to happen, but watch the draft and get your popcorn ready and enjoy it. You know what I mean? When you go to see a movie,
get your popcorn ready and enjoy it. Get your popcorn ready and enjoy it. Speaking of enjoying, Coach Walk just dropped a 50 bomb on the boys.
Whoa.
Coach Walk with the 50 burger. He says 1 week away
Coach
from the
Walk.
draft. Brad said today, enjoy the draft like a movie you haven't seen. First drinks on me next week at the draft party. Doc's all
Come on now.
Coach Walk.
Love that.
We love you, man. You're gonna get the boys taken care of next week, as you always do, man. Much love to you.
Can we get some people in the chat out to the DraftKings next week?
Yeah, anyone that's not too far from Troy or willing to make the. If you're close, come on. You have no excuse, dude.
Come watch the draft. You're gonna sit at home and watch it by yourself. Drive up, watch it with the boys. There's gonna be a bunch of people there. Let's pack the place with crunch time people. That would be sick if we got like 100 people in there.
Yeah, it's gonna be
free too. Like there's people, and in the past,
there's literally no charge. You go to DraftKings like you normally would. The boys just happen to be there.
In the past, we when we did events like this with our past plays, you have to have tickets to get in, or you would have to pay $20 to get in for the night to watch the draft and watch the show. It's free. You could just make sure you get there early, get a table.
Yeah.
Pistons game at 7. Pistons on 7, draft at 8.
Yeah, you got no excuse if you're close, man. You don't. You got no excuse. And honestly, it's going to be packed over there. I mean, it's going to be a great time. Every bar is going to be pretty packed. So if you can, call ahead. See if you can get some seating. And when you do get seating, you hang out with us. We'll have a good time. We'll be live. Yeah. Boys will all be there. Caleb, he'll be out there. And he'll have a good time. He'll be chugging some beers. So
he'll be having a good time. Shout out Brandon Peters, boys. He's the one that I just sent you the picture of the stuff. He'll be popping out there. I know he's going to give us some stuff, but people are going to be popping out. So stop.
That's who made that. That is
sweet.
Those
are dope, bro.
Yeah,
because I haven't sent you. I don't think I showed you guys the Will Howard one. And he has stuff for a Hutch one. Dope stuff.
But yeah, Brad said he had a simple message. He said, "Get your popcorn and enjoy it." And now, for us, it doesn't really work that way. We're going to enjoy it, of course.
Yeah.
But we cover it as well. So
I don't think he was really talking about the media, though, in my eyes.
Yeah, like fans in general, of course. I mean, the guy, when you have a good GM, you should be able to enjoy the draft. I think most Lions fans deal with so much anxiety from past mess-ups. And now it's getting to a point where it is just kind of like, I know plenty of Lions fans, and they're just like, yeah, I'm just going to watch the draft, hang out, and just let Brad cook. And that's okay. He usually does. It's nice having a good GM, which we also we'll see if we have time. If not, we'll get to it tomorrow. But top 5 NFL GMs, we're going through that today. So
yeah,
it'll be a good time.
Interesting comment.
But when you have a really good GM, the draft's that much more fun. The offseason's more fun.
Especially when Brad moves in the draft. Like there hasn't been a draft where we just sat there and be like, oh, Pick 6 is there. Even when the lines were, and that wasn't pick 6. What pick was it? Might have when they took Gibbs, traded back. Either way, like you see Brad trade up, trade back. He does everything. He stays active, and he's not some GM that's just letting players fall to him. He makes moves, so it's always going to be a good time. I feel like for Lions fans.
Yeah, Chris Bird says, "Where's the draft party this year?" It's at DraftKings Sports and Social in Troy. We'll be there, really from start of draft till end of the night, literally all night. So come through, DraftKings. Sports and Social. It's a great spot. We did a show there. We were there for.
It's huge. I mean, if you want to watch the draft and the Pistons will be on, there are a million TVs there,
and it's on at 7.
Yeah, Pistons are on at 7. So we'll probably be there. We'll probably be there earlier. Yeah, and we might be live around that time for like kind of getting ready to do some pre-draft stuff. So yeah, I'll have a drink with some people, have a beer with some people.
Yeah, that's nice. At least we get to watch an hour of the Pistons. That's awesome. I love that because I wasn't sure about the whole time thing. They didn't announce it, but today you got it officially. So
to be honest, the game's probably over by the time the first 10 picks are in, and I don't think Brad or like the Lions are going to trade into the top 10.
No,
so
it works.
I think by the time like real action starts, let's say like Brad trades up to like 11 at the furthest. I think the Pistons game would be over because there's a lot in the first couple picks is like 10 minutes in between each pick or something like crazy like that, or 7 minutes. So by the time it's gonna work out.
Yeah, it's nice. And by the way, I mean it's in the ticker, but we're live on Saturday. By the way, we're live. Yep. We're gonna have a watch party for the Pistons game. So if you're at home watching the game, tune in, hang out with the fellas. We'll be live. All the boys will be there watching the game, kicking it, having a good time, watching the Pistons. Maybe even steal a game in New York. I was reading some local media too. They're like simulating noise at practice, getting guys fired up. You got Malik Beasley saying, "I ain't worried about Karl-Anthony Towns, man." That's what he just said. I saw a quote, something like that.
Playoffs, man. That's when things start to come out like that.
I'm paraphrasing, but he said something like that because I think they used to be teammates. But he's like, I ain't worried about that. No, it's going to be war out there in New York, so it'll be a good time. So we'll be live. But Brad also spoke about, and by the way, this is what you were referencing earlier, Za'Darius Smith. And the last time we had an update, everyone was excited because it was like, oh, they're still in contact with his agent. There's still dialogue. Maybe there's a chance this gets done. And then you see Za'Darius at the Pistons game. And then you see Za'Darius tweet a tweet giving him credit. He had a bunch of pass rushers on there and their pressure rate. Za'Darius was on that graphic. And then the doc asked the question, which we love, about Za'Darius. So let's hear what Brad had to say about Za'Darius Smith.
Za'Darius Smith recently at the Pistons game. Just wondering, since the annual meeting, have you had any more conversations with his agent or the player?
No, we haven't had any discussions since then. I think it kind of left it as, that, his agent would kind of let us know if something was, going on or, if anything had changed or if we had any updates. So, but no, we haven't had any discussions since annual meetings.
Okay. No discussion since annual meetings. So that was the last update we got. This is how I feel about it right now. Okay. And I've been very positive about him returning. I felt very good about it. I felt, at some point there's going to be a reunion. I'm not ruling that out at this point. But I think where they're at right now, and I talked about this in a video, which is on our channel. I recapped a lot of the comments and gave my thoughts on a lot of it. I think where it's at right now is almost like a standoff, and Brad is very firm, which he always is, with what he has to offer Za'Darius, which is probably a short-term contract at a certain amount of money. And I think the problem is, personally, just my personal opinion, I think Za'Darius is either A, not happy with the amount of money, or B, not happy with the length, the amount of the years on the con. Maybe he wants more years. Maybe he wants like 2, 3, and Brad's like, here's 1. There's something that they're not agreeing to, and something that Za'Darius and his agent feels he's entitled to because he's a good player, but the Lions aren't willing to budge on that. So my confidence level officially, fellas, has shrunk a little bit, but I'm not ruling it out. I still think there's a chance. I just think it's going to come to a point where either Za'Darius signs a contract elsewhere and gets what he wants, or Za'Darius says, you know what, screw it, I'll take the deal here in Detroit. Just stay here because I like being here.
I mean, maybe I took it a completely different way with Za'Darius Smith. I felt like those comments, and I texted Doc to kind of see the feel that he got from it, and it sounded like, and I don't want to speak for Doc, but it did seem like he texted back and said, yeah, he texted us back and said, remember who on your show on a Wednesday night a few weeks ago said that he's not going to be on the team until training camp? And I said, yep, Doc, you were right. I don't know, and if I'm being honest, like, yeah, he's probably just kind of letting it all play out to where he can get the most money in the best terms. I don't think he hasn't signed a deal with the Lions because of just strictly that. I think it's just more so like, I'm just going to hold out a little bit. Maybe the money goes up. I don't think it's the Lions being like, we're not going to do it. It sounded like that Brad, like, and a couple weeks ago, it sounded like Brad and them want to do something with Za'Darius. He's like, hey, we've been in contact with his agent. And then over the next few weeks, the fact that they've been in contact and then they haven't, and the fact you add on that Za'Darius hasn't signed anywhere yet, I think it's just one of those things with Za'Darius, like he's in no rush. Like the only thing for him that could happen over the next few weeks or next few months until training camp is he gets a couple extra million because he waited and some other people signed deals and he gets a little bit more desperate. But I don't know. Today just made me feel like Brad being like, he's going to reach out to us. His agent's going to reach out to us when there's an update on anything. If they have any updates, if there's any conversation with a different team, it sounded like they're going to let us know. And when they say something like that, that makes me think Brad is interested and Brad will match, because Brad literally just said, if there's any updates outside of us, they're going to let us know. That's essentially what I took out of it. So like, I think it's a positive. I honestly, how calm Brad was about it, I think Brad was just more so like, it feels like that's going to get a done deal and Za'Darius is going to return to the Detroit Lions. That's what it felt like to me, just based off of those comments. Now, Jeff, if you took it the opposite way, I can see it. But it just, I don't think that he's in a rush. I really don't. And I think he wants to be back in Detroit and Brad wants him. I feel like it's a mutual thing.
That's fair.
I think it's obviously different player, different type of career when it comes to type of player. But I look at the Aaron Rodgers and Pittsburgh Steelers situation right now, and I feel like that's the same thing that Zadarius Smith is doing to the Detroit Lions, where Brad Holmes has to prepare with or without Zadarius Smith for the future without Zadarius Smith. So if you're Zadarius Smith and you know that pretty much any NFL team will have interest in you because you are Zadarius Smith, that's different from Aaron Rodgers. But as far as they want to see what this team does in the draft, because they've been around the NFL for a long time, they know what the NFL is about, and they're going to be on their last contract most likely. So they want to go to a favorable situation where they're still going to be getting paid because, Zadarius Smith isn't the Zadarius Smith of 2020, but he's still a solid player. So if he can get paid a little bit, he'll probably appreciate that. So I think they're both like Aaron Rodgers wants to sign with the Steelers. Zadarius Smith probably wants to sign with the Detroit Lions, but he wants to see what the Lions do in the draft because they brought back Marcus Davenport. And if I'm Zadarius Smith, I probably really didn't expect to see that coming because if you re-sign Marcus Davenport, he was your starter last year. I wasn't in here when Marcus Davenport was healthy, so that could be a potential, like, okay, who's going to get the starter spot? He might just want to walk in somewhere day one and start, but I think both players, Aaron Rodgers and Darius Smith, I know we're talking to Darius, but they want to see how these teams execute the draft so they know how they would fit in coming back.
I still going to stick with it. Zadarius Smith will be a Detroit Lion at the end of the day. It's going to happen. I don't, even if they draft an edge rusher, you get the depth. Zadarius is going to have offers on the table, and it's not going to be that massive deal that everyone's. It is going to be a deal where Brad Holmes can look at him and be like, let's get it done. Or a 2-year deal. I don't know what it'll be, 10 million, 12 million. You have the money to do it now. The contracts kick in later. Zadarius Smith, in my opinion, after the day's comments, what did he say? Word for word, boys. He said, hold on, I just lost it. It was just on my computer screen a second ago. It was just there. He said his agent's going to let him know if anything changes, and he's going to let him know if he hears anything. Right there, when you hear that, when he says the agent's going to let him know, guess what that means, Jeff Iafrate? Brad wants him back, and the agent wants him to come back to Detroit, and Zadarius wants to be back in Detroit. Or else he would be like, we haven't had contact. That's it. That's end of convo. No, he kept going with it and said, he's going to reach out to me if anything changes or if there's an update. There's mutual, in my opinion, there's mutual interest still. It's not it's not a dead situation at all.
Hypothetical, Boone, but I think it's still relevant. We talk about Brad Holmes Day says get your popcorn ready. What do you think happens to the Darius situation if draft night comes? They're at pick 28. They move up to pick 20. They get Izaraku, Mike Elwood.
I still think Brad said today, you never expect a rookie. And this is why I think a little bit changed today. And Brad's not wrong. You never draft the rookie to expect him to come in and help. Jeff, me and you have actually been talking about this a lot with the edge rushers. Like, look at rookies the last few years, their sack numbers. There's only been 1, 2, 3, maybe the last 5 years that their rookie year, you're like, oh, wow, that kid's legit. Until it takes a couple years. I'm saying
from Zadarius' point of view.
I think it was the Zadarius too. Like, the fact that that's coming down, like, you're still going to get the snaps. Zadarius comes in over a rookie or anyone. He's number 2. He's the second edge rusher instantly over Davenport, over the rookie. 100%. He just had.
I mean, I agree with you. I'm just saying, like, I didn't know if you think that factor in or not, like extra body for competition. I was just saying what you.
Yeah, I mean, it's no matter what, it's going to be a short-term deal. It's going to be a short-term deal no matter what. So it's like none of that matters to me. I don't think it matters to Zadarius or anything. As long as he gets the money, that's all he cares about.
Yeah, we know the Lions like bringing guys along pretty slowly, especially if they have an already really good team. Now, I'm not trying to undermine what a rookie could do because, again, I brought up yesterday that Cooper DeJean had a pick 6 in the Super Bowl. So, of course, a rookie can make plays. But I think the Lions, typically how they do things, unless they stink, which they were a couple years ago and everyone was playing, they're in a different spot now where you don't need guys to play as much. So if they draft a rookie without Zadarius, you'll probably lean on him more. But if you have Zadarius, you might not need to bring in this guy. He'll play, but you'll have a little more, you'll have some cushion there. You'll have Zadarius playing. You'll have a rookie playing. You'll have Davenport in case, you know what I mean? And maybe there's injuries. You have some depth. It's just better, in my opinion, you bring them in. And they still have other guys like Mekhi Wingo last year. He's still going to come back here. So,
how many rookies the last 15 years have came in their rookie year outside? Let's say rookies that got drafted outside the top 10 came into an organization and had 9+ sacks in their rookie year. That got drafted outside the top 10.
Well, the funny part of it is I think I can think of like 9, no, but just below 9. The last 3 were literally that I can think of off the top of my head would be part of the Rams.
Okay, let's say in the 20s, drafted in the 20s. All right, I got Jared Verse. Yes. Okay.
No, but he was before the 20s.
He only had like 4.5.
Yeah, but they had Fisk,
Sacks,
Fisk, Kobe Turner, Byron Young, but those guys weren't.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think Braden might have had 8.5.
But like that,
but it's not too many. It's not
that
too
production. Zadarius Smith 9 sacks production.
Not too many.
You're probably not finding anyone besides maybe Abdul Carter or like your Aiden Hutchinson as this number 2 overall pick that's going to do that for you. So if you have a chance to bring him back, whether you draft the rookie edge in the first or not, I think you still pull the trigger. You do.
Yeah, think about this year coming, or I should say last year coming out of the draft, like how Latu was, and Latu, like he came on late in the season. Like Latu looks like he's going to be a good player, but how elite of a pass rusher he was supposed to be. And this season he got, let me look real quick. He only got
4.5, 3.5.
Or even what's his name in Minnesota class?
Dallas Turner.
Yeah,
he barely even saw the field. And he has to fight his way because they got Greenard and Van Ginkel over there. I mean, he's going to see the field more, but he's not going to be like handed, hey, you're the face of this defense now.
That's why I think today what Brad said, like, and we don't have the comment for the show, we didn't clip it, but when he made the comment being like guys, like, we don't draft for ceiling, we don't draft for floor. We draft the best player that we think is there that can help this team out. And he goes, at the end of the day, we're not drafting to rely on a rookie to come in and help us win a Super Bowl. Like, that's just unrealistic for any football team. Now, like you said, Jeff, if a guy could do it, a pick 6 in the Eagles, and they make a play, boom, pat on the back, like, what a draft pick, you did it well. But you're not drafting to be like, hey, he needs to step in right away and do this. And that's why I do think there are Lions fans, and sometimes we get kind of caught up doing it as well, to where we're like, draft this guy, like, you need this, you need it. It's like he's probably like we forget these guys are going to come in right away and really just be like, oh, you win a Super Bowl because of this kid. Like, that's unrealistic to like have that that mindset. That's why I think so many people were pushing for like the Trey Hendricksons and those bigger names, because they did know that. And it's just it's kind of a fact. And Brad kind of reminded the people about it today.
Well, we have Brad on his philosophy, reiterating that. He had some moments where he was like, he's getting a little, I wouldn't say like heated, but he was getting firm. He's getting firm today. So he reiterated his stance and what he believes. So you alluded to it, Boone.
It's a little.
Yeah. So let's take a listen to Mr. Brad Holmes talking about that.
What I won't do is what I've been saying that I won't do, that I know you guys get frustrated with me not doing, is looking at our depth charts, like names, black and white names, but no football being played or anything, looking at a depth charts and seeing a position and then saying, man, you got to get that position, but a player has to play that position. And so that's why I've always been saying, look, we want to get good players, because if you get a guy that can play a position and say, look, like, what was the question that you asked, Brad? The 50th time you asked pass rushers, like, well, you can draft a pass rusher every round. You could. It's easy. That's just like if a coach told me, man, we want a guy that's 6'4", 250. If we got a guy 6'4", 250, that's easy. You want a guy 6'4", 250? Yeah. I don't know if he's a good football player, but he'll be 6'4", 250. Where the same as, yeah, you can draft a defensive end. If the player playing defensive end is not what we feel is going to be the right guy to really contribute to our football team, then what are you guys going to write about that player? You guys, man, that's not working. So we're not going to reach on players just to fill a position. So that's what we won't do.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, and I think this is like, I want to say, I think, just to stick up for some of the media here, I think everyone in that room understands that philosophy. I mean, they cover the Lions. So I think even like Brad Galley asking about edge, I think he understands how Brad works, but they are doing their job when they ask about a position that the Lions have kind of they haven't really figured out, which is edge 2. You know what I mean? It's kind of so it's like I get what Brad's saying, but like, come on, Brad, they're gonna ask. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
You've had Davenport there, you got her, like you're gonna get those questions a lot. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I mean, if all the guys in that room came in like, okay, let's not ask about that. Let's ask about what BPA player he should take or like his philosophy. It's gonna be one question to the guy. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I get it, and I don't mind Brad, being firm there, but it's like what we do. And I'm sure what many people do, a lot of people have their own shows and talk sports, is you give your opinion. So, like, I'm still going to say edge. Fans are going to say edge. And then Brad's going to do his thing. And we're all going to just see it on Thursday, talk about it. So it's like, I get it. But this isn't, like, surprising. Like, you know what I'm saying? We talked about this how many times, boys, last week? You know what I'm saying? We've talked about Brad's philosophy, Boone. You brought it up.
Pushing it.
Yeah, and we've all agreed with it. Like, we understand it. Doesn't mean they still don't need an edge 2, at some point.
Yeah.
Preferably earlier.
I mean, they've met with a lot of first-round potential edges. Like, they not even just, like, met, but they brought him in as a top 30. Like, they've brought Shamar Stewart in. They spoke with Mike Hall. They spoke with Mike Green. So, like, I think he's doing his due diligence, and he's, like, meeting with these guys, and the only thing I think that could happen is in the first round, if he has met with all these guys and Klotz, he doesn't like Shamar Stewart, like you don't like Shamar Stewart. And there's the issues with Mike Green to where, he actually spoke on, like today, he spoke on learning more about people, like the stuff that was in the news about Mike Green. Like, he's like, you kind of dig a little deeper in on that, and you get to know a little bit more about what actually happened. So, like, depending on how that went with Mike Green, and then, hey, if you wanted to make those, like, we're actually going to talk about trades later, so I won't bring that up. But, like, if you have a chance to get Mike Green, do you do it? Like, I think he's done his due diligence. And listen, I'll be the first one to say it, and I'll be the first one to say it on the other side. You need an edge. Like, you need to draft an edge for the future. It's not just like, hey, this year he needs to contribute. You need someone across from Hutch over the next 4 or 5 years. Jeff, are you good over there? Lock in. But on the other side of things, it's, hey, Brad's going to be Brad. I do kind of respect him stepping up here, not about the edge room, but him being like, we're not going to just draft guys just based off of need. Like he just said it there, Klotz. I've been arguing with you about this for weeks, but like he just said it, like, I'm not going to just draft guys just because we need that spot. He's like, I'm not reaching on a guy for just to reach on him. And I kind of respect that out of a GM. Like, I do. I think there are some of the best GMs in the game. 49ers, Rams, Eagles, like even Howie Roseman, like, yeah, there's times they need stuff, but like he just takes best players a lot. Like, and when you go back and look at it, you're like, he just got the best player. And did they really need it at the time? Maybe not. He's drafted 10 straight defensive linemen. Do they need 10 defense? No, but guess what? He's drafting his favorite players and the best players. And I kind of respect Brad at this point, going out there to the media a week before and being like, I'm going to draft the players that I like. And you can't, I mean, boys, like, you can't be like, no, Brad, because he's hit on so many. Like, he is in the first 2 rounds outside of Josh Pascal. He's like just produced stars in the first 2 rounds. So it's like, you have to trust his brain and be like, he's probably just going to draft another Pro Bowler in the first round. And you have to just sit there and wait. Because again, the point of, is a guy going to contribute right away? Unless you're maybe in the top 5? No. So it's a tough spot to be in because 28th is so far down.
I think, and I do respect it 100% for him to come out to say, but I think it matters with context, because if you're taking best player available, Jackson Dart, Marion Hampton, Colson Loveland are sitting there in positions that you don't need, that's when I get upset. But if you're now talking about a situation that I've said many times that don't want to happen, Nick Scorton's on the board at 28. Trade back, don't take Nick Scorton. Those are situations where I'm completely okay with it. Or if there's offensive linemen, even if it's at a defensive end spot where it's like, okay, people want defensive end. Am I going to take a guy like Nick Scorton here? Again, this doesn't have to be Nick Scorton, but whoever that is, Landon Jackson, a lot of people like. Am I going to take Landon Jackson at 28 just because we need an edge rusher? Or do I go offensive line?
Klotz, real quick, just with that, I think you're 100% right, but I think using that against Brad on April 17th, 2025, it's not fair. Like it's a voided conversation because Brad hasn't done that yet. To where like we haven't even got there. Like, has Brad ever taken a guy like that to where like what He's literally for
I mean,
Jahmyr
you bring
Gibbs.
up,
But for Jahmyr
that's-
Gibbs, he literally traded back because he knew I don't need to take him at 6 overall. I can still trade back. I can get assets, which he did to go pick up guys like Brian Branch and Sam Laporta. And he traded back and he got assets because he knew it wasn't there at 6. And that's where I think it's like we can't really knock him on that. Now, if we get to Thursday, Klotz, and he drafts Nick Scorton 28th overall, I will be right there with you side by side being like, that's not a first round graded player. You should have moved back.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that I think Jahmyr Gibbs is the one context that you could use, but me and you agree there was a clear path. Like DeAndre Swift was not going to be the future of the running back position with this team, and you could see that they were moving off of him and Jamal. And I agree with you. Like he hasn't done that yet, but that's the pushback when people say, "Hey, just if he takes best player available, he takes best player available." And I'm not saying that you're saying this, Boone, but there are people that will just be like, "Hey, if Brad takes a wide receiver in the first round," again, not saying you, but we've had this discussion. Like I'm not okay with that for the reasons that we just said. Like, if you're going to go in the first round, take a wide receiver, and you have needs on defense, you can't tell me there's not a player on defense, even if you were to trade back, that could help this defense where it needs it more than a wide receiver where you already have 4 or 5 weapons that can make a difference.
That's
Yeah,
why
Why take a
weird
wide receiver at 28 in 2025 when you could trade back, get more value, both in this draft and the future draft, and take a defensive end and add value?
Which I think he would do. I think there's two things with it. There's 2 things with it. Like I think it has to do with BPA and positional value. Like the quarterback situation. They're only like it's like this all around the NFL. There are only a handful of teams that need to draft a quarterback, whether it's for a backup or not, or have the luxury to do it. Lions don't have the luxury to draft a quarterback, and you can't use that as an excuse of, well, you want to go BPA, but you also don't want to go for a need. So which one is it? Like quarterback is such a null and void like position, and even tight end. Like I think quarterback, tight end, like there are these one-off positions to where it's like, yeah, you don't need to do that. But there are first-round positions to where when there's BPA, and you can argue defensive line, offensive line, maybe corner. I would throw in wide receiver in that position to where if there are linebacker, like I would throw those even wide receivers in that group to where if there is a top tier guy, like a first round graded player, and you're at the back of the draft, and a top 15 guys falls to you, and you're sitting there going, this guy's 5th on my board. You're not. That's when it turns to this is our board. You have to take him. You can't, like Jackson Dart isn't even on their board, Klotz. Like that positional value thing with that, it doesn't go there because they're not like they probably have their own quarterback board if they get to the 5th, 6th, 7th round. But like, and I'm sure running backs in the first 2 rounds aren't on their board. I'm sure but I'm like, when you take about these positions in the first 2 rounds, like value wise, they have their board. And if there's a wide receiver that falls that's high up on their board and falls to 28, like I know for a fact Brad will pull the trigger. It is what it is. It's just certain positions.
That's why we all agree, like just simple philosophy. You're not going to reach on a player that you don't think you're not going to reach on a player just because you need that position. I think that's fair. But I think there always has to be some vision for a player. And he's always had one for every draft pick. So I'm not even like worried about it, to be honest with you. I think this is Brad reiterating what he believes. And I do think there's part of it where, yeah, you draft BPA, but you have to have some vision. Like, I don't think he'll ever draft a quarterback because, again, that's just straight BPA, which that's like, it's like auto draft mode on like one of these mock drafts.
Dude, it's like a fantasy draft where you end up with like 4 quarterbacks.
Yeah, it's like, I don't think that's the case. I think there's going to be a vision. It's BPA plus, is this guy the best player? Groups. Yeah. And I think in this draft, perfect timing. This draft, there's going to be a lot of offensive and defensive linemen that are around that 28th pick
100%
that are going to be in that BPA conversation. It's going to line up, guys. Like, I think we're going to stress about it for 7 days, and then when they make the pick, I think it's either going to be an offensive lineman or a defensive lineman.
Now, can I bring this point up, Jeff, and test you boys real quick?
Mm-hmm.
Come on.
All of the top defensive linemen and offensive linemen are off the board, which means guys like Matthew Goldenfall, Emeka Ibuka. There's a handful of guys that start to fall, and you're sitting there and you're like, how did this just happen? The next best defensive lineman on the board is Nick Scorton, which is a 2nd round graded guy. And Brad's like, okay, we have to make a move. And he's calling back to 30 or 34, 35, 40. And no one's willing to move off of their pick to go up to 28 because as well as they're like, now, why would I go to 28 if there's no 1st round graded guys? Like, what am I doing here? Would you rather him take Nick Scorin, who's probably, let's say, 40th on his list, or Matthew Burden, who's 7th on his list? Because I know who he's going to pick. This is a scenario that could happen to where Brad's in a position in the war room, and he's like, all right, boys, we got to make a decision here.
Well,
I know what Brad would do.
You know what the interesting part of that is we really don't know because remember Jack Campbell, like if they wouldn't have taken Jack at 18, he would have never been picked in the first round. So, but they had him higher on their board.
Oh,
but
you're
maybe
starting to really understand me, and I love you so much, Jeff.
Maybe like I'm
this
just
is
saying,
a breakthrough right now.
Maybe like Nick Scorton is like high on his board. Like it's easy.
Yeah.
It's easy to look at a player, and I'm not saying I agree.
I'm just giving an example of a guy like
but
the next guy on the board is low on his list, but Matthew Burden's like 10th on his list, and then the next best on his list is like 30th something, and he's like, oh, whoa, that was just an interesting top 27 picks. How did that go?
Like, what if like Jordan Birch is like one of his top 5 edges?
Then he's going Jordan Birch at 28,
you know
and he'll pull the trigger.
Yeah,
he's done that.
No
but I'm just saying, like, if that board falls that way, and he has a guy in his top 10 that's still on the board, which is like Matthew Golden, and then he has a guy in his 40th best player left, and he's sitting there going, no one's answering my phone calls to trade back. Like, he said it today, like, it's a two-way street. And he's like, sometimes he said it. We have a segment on that later, but like you say, boys, see what I'm saying here?
Yep, that 28th overall pick, he said he has not received any calls that are interested in trade for the 28th overall pick. So, but it's early. I think it might heat up.
Yeah, draft night, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of phone calls.
Once players start falling, yeah. It
the
doesn't
craziest
mean something happened as far as trading back. But
right.
Right. Klotz, you see that scenario there? Because I think if you were the GM, you would be like, I just got to do this. Like,
I think it almost falls a little bit more into the point where does Brad just avoid being in that situation completely and just go get his guy? You know what I mean? To your point, like
trade up, yeah.
About trading up. Like he probably doesn't want to have the burden, no pun intended, of looking at Luther Burden at 28 or Nick Scorton. Like if a certain player, using Donovan Uzaraku as an example, like if he's falling past the Falcons at 15, oh my God, there's 4 or 5 teams right there that could use an edge. He's going to be gone. Let me just go up and get it. It's what he did in the second round a lot with guys like Sam Laporta. So first round, I definitely think it's alive.
To that point too, Klotz. And he said in that clip, like he's like, I'm not going to reach. If he truly doesn't like a Jordan Birch, which I'm saying he still could, but just example, like if he doesn't like a Birch or Nick Scorton, and that's the guy on the board that's there, and everyone's like, draft him, and say Brad feels the pressure to have to draft an edge and does it, and then Matthew Golden goes the next pick, and then Matthew Golden's an all-pro, and Nick Scorton or Jordan Birch end up just being like a Levi O or a Josh Pascal at the 28th overall. His point there, like everyone, you guys are going to write about it because I didn't want that player, but I had to reach on him because everyone wanted me to go to BP or for needs. And he's like, and I never liked him. And he was like, and then they ended up turning out bad, but I did it because everyone wanted me to do needs. And I think that's his point, which is like, okay, that kind of makes sense. If you feel like you can get a guy later in the draft that's going to be just as good as what's available, it's an interesting.
Well, he did. Point. He loves the edge class. He said there's some good football players there when he talked about that edge group. So he likes the edge class. So I wouldn't rule out anything. I mean, even though he hasn't gotten calls right now, you never know. And I think this draft is probably one of those drafts where it's like we've mentioned it before, and I think who. I think Daniel Jeremiah said it. When he said it's a starter draft, it's a starter draft, not a star draft. It's like a great way to describe it. Can't remember if it was him or Tom McShay. But you might be teams where it's like maybe Brad's like, I don't know if I want to trade up because the caliber of player I can get at 28 probably similar to the player I can trade up and get at 16, 17. Maybe unless he thinks Mike Green. He's like, I'll do it for Mike Green. But he hasn't met with too many top guys. I mean, besides that, it could be defensive tackle. I mean, they've been bringing in some defensive tackles too. That'll be around that 28th pick. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be shocked. Derek Harmon,
your guy Klotzy, they brought him in. Maybe they end up like if that's a Brad guy, maybe he ends up going at 28, and that's your guy in the first round, which I know you love, Tyleek Williams.
Tyleek, yeah.
Well,
I've seen him mocked a couple of times.
Do you guys think too? What video? I was gonna. Which one?
No, go on. It was trading up versus.
Oh, you could play that. I was literally going to say something about trading up, so I'll just go after.
Let's hear Brad talking about trading up.
who might be in striking range, who might, so it really, it could be moving back. It could just be, just staying patient. It could be, didn't think that this guy, didn't go up. So, you be prepared for everything. So you go through all those scenarios, and then you just kind of got to be ready for anything.
Yeah, he's not going to reveal too much, right? See how Brad, he's a great, he understands being a general manager. He's just he's talking about trading back. He's like, well, we also could trade up. We could trade back. We could stay put. We could trade up. He's not going to say, we'd love to trade up. It's like, but I'm excited to see what happens. Who knows?
He might be one of the best in the game at
word salad.
Yeah, or even like he talked a lot today about trading back to making teams think that he's just going to trade back and he's not that interested in the top 15, top 20 picks. That makes the value go down, and he can go get a top 15 pick cheaper. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like he did a good job of that today as well. A lot of people were like, "Oh, Brad's panicking." I don't think he was panicking. I think the man is just that good at like putting an act out and being able to be like tight quarters. Because I don't think he gave anything up today. I really don't.
Just my opinion. I think I'm leaning towards trading back. I think that's, and he
talked about that all day, and then GMs they'll do the opposite of what they talk about.
Takes two to tango. It takes another team wanting to come up, and I think for a quarterback, if you're trying to get like Jalen Milroe, maybe Jackson Dart falls. I mean, who knows? Or another player a team really likes that they don't want to let fall. Because those teams at the top of the draft are drafting BPA in the second round. So you never know. Your player they like to keep on.
Jeff,
my overreaction, they won't have a first round pick.
I'm not picking on you. I'm not picking on Ryan. But when you leave a pre-draft press conference thinking that the GM sounded like he's going to do this, you just got played.
No,
you just got played, because there's 31 other GMs in front offices that are watching that press conference, and you know what they're all thinking going out of it now. And Brad did his job. They're all leaving there going, all right, Brad wants to trade out. Okay, write that down. Make sure we take a note of that. He doesn't want to come up. But then you know what he's going to do on draft night? He's going to steal the soul out of a GM around the NFL, and he's going to trade up.
He's going to trade right in front of the Green Bay Packers, like he has been in rounds for the last 3 years, and just steal it. He's going to send Tom Grassi into another migraine spinning headache, and he's going to take whoever I don't know if you guys saw that too. It was a great post, but it's true. Brad he always jumps. Remember, J-Mo traded with the Minnesota Vikings when he went in front of when he got Terry Arnold. He traded with the Cowboys, who were right in front of the Green Bay Packers, who are sitting in a situation where they need a corner. They still need a corner right now. Multiple times he just goes up and gets them.
Hey, Klotz, you know what he said today too that I thought was Jeff, I think you might have heard this. Not only just the JMO draft, he went up to 12 and did that. He said there's been other drafts which he wasn't able to get the deal done, where he was just extremely aggressive trying to get into the top, 15? Like, he didn't say the exact number, but he's like, I've been aggressive in drafts that I didn't end up getting up in there. And it just didn't work out because it takes two to tango. So I think this year, like, boys, Brad's going to be aggressive. If Mike Green gets past the top 10 and he is there to 14, 15, just like I did the trade the other day, and they met with them and they like him, or even like a Michael Williams, if there's a team that slips up and goes, yeah, we'll do it, I can almost guarantee you Brad's making the calls. Now, I can't guarantee you the deals get done because it takes two to tango. But after today, him basically being like, he's traded in first round 3 out of his 4 years, and he admitted today that he's tried to be aggressive and trade all the way up, be at some point, and that it didn't get done. So it's like he's going to try. He will try and get into the top 20. I can guarantee you that.
These comments crack me up. Cardia says, LOL, his wife cheated on him with a defensive end.
He is a defensive end.
Maybe he's just so picky. Like, he just wants to. Like,
Brad is an edge rusher.
End too is going to be.
Was he an edge or was he a tackle?
To be in the NFL.
Both. Tweener. Why do you think
he
likes
can do
tweeners?
it all?
Yeah, he probably was a tweener for real.
He loves tweeners because of that.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, that's fair. Bottom line said, are we sure all 31 teams watch that? Hey,
maybe not GMs, but their front offices.
Les Snead, I bet.
He's
they got interns watching it for sure.
100%. Not even. I don't even think it was interns. They have some executives. Chris Spielman's probably the guy for the Lions watching all the other ones. Chris, get us some intel. I got you, boys.
Yeah.
By the
He was
way, when we
going
were
up
at the
to
draft,
fucking-
Chris's brother, we saw him like a million times.
Right.
Rick, we saw Rick 100 times. I was there by myself at the Starbucks, and Rick comes walking by. Hey, Rick. Hey, Boone.
Yeah,
he said, "Hey, Bone."
Yeah.
No, I talked to him for a little bit though. I said, "Hey, cover the Lions. Good to see you."
Yeah,
He's
he's
a
I
good
mean,
dude.
he's I mean, Chris and Rick, they did. I think they did. I watched their pod they did together a while ago.
Yeah, it was funny. 'Cause
Former
Rick was in
wrestler.
media for the longest.
But hey, Brad also talked about a certain position, and I loved this. Is one of my favorite, like not the quote, but what he said, the entire quote. This is a snippet of it, but he went into the wide receiver position. He said, "You really can never get enough of them on drafting wide receivers." And I think, well, he also stated, which my favorite part of that quote was, "You can find them anywhere." He said that. He said that,
sure.
which is like, I love that because in Brad, so that's not like I'm not trying to say like I'm surprised. I mean, the guy's a very, very smart talent evaluator, but we've seen it. I mean, speaking of the Rams, you just brought up Les Snead. The two receivers they're running into this year with weren't first round picks, Devontae and Puka Nacua. But then there's also guys that are and turn into superstars, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase. But there's a mix of them. And that's what was his point. I mean, they're everywhere. So I think, am I going to completely come out here and say, well, there's no way that they're going to draft one at 28? Because I've already stated how I feel. I think you keep J-Mo, man. You're in the Super Bowl year. Roll out with him. He'll ball out. And then you address it next year if you really want to draft one. Or what I think is going to happen is this, right? After, the first round, maybe you can argue, well, I want one at round 2 or whatever. Personally, after round 2, it's guns a-blazing. You could fire away. You know what I mean? Because I think still round 2, I don't know if BPA will be a receiver. And again, I'm not Brad Holmes in terms of talent evaluation. But I think there's a lot of interesting guys throughout this draft that I think will be some really good players. It's not a great wide receiver class, but whenever you hear that, there's always going to be some guys that are just, some hidden gems in like round 3, 4, 5 that end up being really good players. I like Jalen Royals. I mean, you guys
or Nick Nash. I almost said Steve.
Yeah,
Nash.
Nick Nash. You love Jaden Higgins. He'll be around. He'll be a second round pick. He'll be a really good player. Klotzy's brought up guys he really likes. Kyle Williams, you like Booner. Like there's guys that will be really good players. You know what I mean? So love that Brad said this. Love that he kind of has that same philosophy. Again, I see Wheezy and Wheezy. Come on, man. Wheezy. He said, "I know you love that, Jeff, the J-Mo hater." When did I become a J-Mo hater?
I feel like Jeff's always stuck up for J-Mo. To be honest, there's one time I remember Jeff not sticking up for him.
He's rage. He's trying to. Is that rage bait, Boone? What is that?
That's I can fall for it all the time. You did it. No, dude, listen. I'm going to say this with the wide receivers, and this is the interesting part of it, too, because I am one that I would argue, and I could say, like, you could draft the wide receiver every year, especially if you're good at evaluating them. And obviously your room's going to get filled out, but just because of contracts, right? Like J-Mo's contract coming up. Amon-Ra just got signed. Tim Patrick's on a 1-year deal. Brad's only drafted 3 wide receivers in Detroit. Antoine Green, Jameson Williams, and Amon-Ra St. Brown. I could argue 2 out of the 3 hit, right? Like, do you guys want to argue that? I would say
Antoine Green. Antoine Green was at 7th round.
7th, but either way though, like 2 out of the 3. So the 2 times that he's picked outside of the 7th round a wide receiver, I know it's not a big sample size. They've both been pretty good. They've both worked out. So I do think like this is a year where Brad, and honestly, I wouldn't be mad. We used to do the mock drafts with it. At pick 60, or even if he moves up, if he loves a wide receiver, Ellick. They met with Ellick from Stanford. I'm never going to pronounce his last name.
A.O. Manor.
A.O. Manor. But like trade up and snag him, or if he's at 60, snag him. Like I do think, Klotz, I know you say there's a lot of weapons on this team, but again, like I think there's an argument when it comes to wide receiver. Like there's going to be a point to where you're going to have to move on from J-Mo, or Tim Patrick's going to leave, or Khalif isn't going to be there anymore. And you can't be late to the party on getting another guy in that room. Like you can't. Like you can't get to next year and be like, oh no, we got to get a rookie. And then what happens if you draft the rookie and he doesn't work out? You're like, oh no, now we just don't. We're down a weapon and all we have is Amon-Ra. Oh no, Amon-Ra got hurt. Now what receivers do we have? We're rolling with Tim Patrick, Khalif Raymond, and Sam Laporta. Like those are our guys. Like that's where I think you run in. Ronnie Bell. But that's where I think you run into a situation to where it's like this is a year to where I feel like I know he doesn't go priority and needs. But if there's a guy that's talented, you pull the trigger, whether it's whatever round. I know maybe first round we go edge, but second, third, fourth, If there's a guy that you fall in love with, and Brad does, he's been good at seeing wide receivers, you do it. You get it done. Whether there's a position, whether he's going to get the snaps or not. You find a room and you get him in the room, and if it takes him a year to get those snaps, all right, there it is. We waited 2 years for Jameson Williams. You guys can't tell me you can't wait a year for a second-round pick to replace JMO that's going to be, potentially up there. Like, come on now.
Yeah, and Boone, I'm with you 100% that they need to add a weapon in this draft at the wide receiver spot. My thing is why I push back so hard with wide receiver on the first round and why I'm not in love with wide receiver in the second round, because I think in this draft you find Tim Patrick's replacement. I think next year is when you go and you find Jameson Williams' replacement. When you find JMO's replacement, you're going to have to go up higher in the draft. Now, like I said, we talk about Isaiah Higgins a lot. I always mess that up. Either way, wide receiver, Jaden Higgins. Thank you. When you're looking at Jaden Higgins, second round pick, I'm not going to be throwing the table saying, oh, I hate this pick. I just think when you look in the draft, if you go trenches first 2 rounds, whatever, BPA, however you want to look at it, there's still a guy like Pat Bryant that's available later in the draft that can still fill in for a Tim Patrick. Isaac Tesla, who I'm starting to like more and more as the draft goes on. You're not asking him to replace Jameson Williams. You're asking Isaac Tesla to come in this year, be wide receiver 4 or 5. Khalif Raymond's going to be gone. In year 2 or 3, be that fourth wide receiver. So when the fourth or third wide receiver, so when JMO's replacement does come in, you have Isaac Tesla year 2. They're going to add somebody else, I'm sure, whether through free agency and the draft. They're going to have this room ready, but I don't think that wide receiver is a spot, in my opinion, in the first 2 rounds. You're like, okay, let's go get him, because there's a lot of good wide receivers in this draft outside of the first 2 rounds. I just think it's the wide receiver 2, especially when you have the luxury of having a tight end like Sam Laporta, is probably the easiest thing to replace on this team right now.
I mean, I disagree. It's still easy to draft a guy, and no one's a guarantee. And that's why this year, you have 2 years to get a replacement for him. Why wouldn't you try and get it for 2 years? And if you miss this year, guess what, Klotzy? That guy probably turns into your wide receiver 3-4. But if you miss, then next year, but like Isaac Tesla's not going to be Jameson Williams. Why would you wait until late in the draft and be like, oh, let's just get Isaac Tesla to be let's draft a fifth wide receiver for your team? No, go in the second and third round, go be aggressive maybe, and go get a Jaden Higgins. And if you really aren't going to bring JMO back, and if we don't know, but Brad does, if that's going to be the case, you make an attempt at getting a replacement this year. And whether he plays or not a lot this year, when it's time to move on from JMO, you have your wide receiver too. And if it doesn't hit this year, guess what? Next year, you be even more aggressive with the wide receiver. And then in the first and second round, you go at it. But I just think this year, you can't just be like, oh, let's just go 5th round Isaac Tesla. His ceiling is a 4th or a 3rd overall or 3rd wide receiver on a team. And you can roll with that and then just hope next year you can go out and replace JMO. No, you have 2 years to take a chance at it and take a shot at it. Use both of those years, because if you go 0 for 1 next year, you're screwed, because you should have done it last year. And you know what I'm going to do as an analyst? Real quick, as an analyst, I'm going to go into the draft from last year, and I'm going to go, what wide receivers did this man pass up on that could have replaced JMO? Oh, Jaden Higgins? Elika Yamor? You know what I'm saying? You have to take the chances.
My point is,
you know.
Let's look at having a wide receiver 1 is important. Like a wide receiver 1, I'd be all for. But let's look at.
I could go out there and replace JMO.
No, that's
yeah.
That's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is you have Amon-Ra St. Brown, you have Sam Laporta, you have Jahmyr Gibbs, you have David Montgomery. This is a run-first offense. Look around the other elite teams that are always making a Super Bowl. Look at the Buffalo Bills this year. Who was their standout wide receiver? Kansas City Chiefs had a rookie wide receiver. The Philadelphia Eagles stood out, absolutely. But A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith up to the Super Bowl with basically no-shows. They couldn't throw for a touchdown. I don't think wide receiver 2 is a position where you're pressing, because you do have a 1,500-yard guy. You have a 1,000-yard wide receiver or tight end in Sam Laporta. And you have a guy out of the backfield, both of them, because you saw David Montgomery out of the backfield this year, that can each give you production out of the backfield. I don't think this team needs 2 1,000-yard wide receivers. Not saying that you do. But if I'm looking at Yossi Voss in Cincinnati cutting up right now, I have all the faith in Brad Holmes to go get a second-round rookie wide receiver and say, hey, give me 600-700 yards year 1, develop in year 2, reach that 900 1,000-yard mark. I fully trust that. I don't think when you have a rookie wide receiver, it's instantly huge step back. I don't think this team needs to have a guy that's ready to go. We see all the time. Like Ladd McConkey this year had 1,000 yards in LA.
Yeah, and how'd they do in the
Hold on,
playoffs?
but my headphones went out. Can't hear anything.
You know what I mean? Like I get what you're saying, Klotz, but like to me that's like the what's the approach? Like I 100% agree. Like I see where you're coming from, but that's Jeff. You know the word I'm looking for. That's like the like safe approach. Like yeah, you really don't need it. Like, but it's nice to have. Then why not just take 2 shots at it for the next 2 drafts? I'm not saying first round.
I
Why not? Why not in the
second
second round? Be like, let's try and get a dude. And if it doesn't work, okay.
I don't
next
hate it in
year.
the second round. I just don't love it.
If Jane Higgins, you can get him. Why wouldn't you? If you can
Yeah,
get Xavier Restrepo, why wouldn't you? Like, I don't care if he plays like Amon Ra. Go find a weapon that you fall in love with and bring him in. But like, you can't take that like approach. There's a word I'm looking for. And I should know words. Talk on air for a living.
We look for like
cautious,
passive,
cautious, a passive approach at it. Just in the back of your head, you're thinking, well, we really don't need to actually find a 1,000-yard guy. We don't need it. Well, no, but guess what? If you're trying to win a Super Bowl, the Eagles had AJ Brown and a kid. Let me introduce you to Klotzy, Devontae Smith. Like, oh, you don't need it, but it's nice to have. So yeah, like to me, go for it. Like, take 2 shots. If you know, the only way I'm okay with it is if Brad knows he's bringing back J-Mo. If he knows he's signing him, whatever. If he's not signing J-Mo, there better be a wide receiver in day 2. On next Friday, I better have a wide receiver in my building.
Yeah, I mean, I've already kind of stated how I feel about it. I'm not opposed to it. Anything after round 1. I just think if you draft one round 2, that dude's not going to contribute much. He's just not, unless there's an injury. I mean, Tim Patrick was wide receiver. He was wide receiver 3. And what did he get? 300. So it's just like but to your point, Boone, you are correct for the future. It is smart. Like you're getting it's because then you have leverage. Then you can look at J-Mo and be like, hey, we got this. We got this dude right here. He's pretty good. If you don't want to sign or we trade you, we got this guy.
You want to ask for more money? Okay, it's cool.
But the reality is that rookie won't make much of an impact for you on a Super Bowl,
which is fine. Year 1,
people are going to get frustrated. Yeah,
J-Mo didn't play basically for 2 years. You have J-Mo for 2 years.
They weren't this close to winning a Super Bowl though.
But the thing is, Klotzy, it's like you're making this argument stating that this is a great wide receiver class. Brad goes BPA. So if he loves a guy, do it.
No, but that's kind of my
told
point.
You today he doesn't look at the depth chart. He does not care. You're trying to pitch me Isaac Tesla.
I think that's the complete opposite of what I'm saying. This wide receiver class compared to most is very poor. Like it doesn't have that star talent. Even in the first round, there's not a clear-cut wide receiver 1. So why take a wide receiver in this class in the second round when most likely, like if you look at this year's class or next year's class in the years after, in 2 years, Ryan Williams and Jeremiah Smith are coming out. That's going to be an absolutely low class.
Klotz, we don't need you're making the point. You don't need a wide receiver 1.
Stop cutting me off no, I'm not. What I'm saying is the quality of wide receivers in the drafts coming up are going to be better because when you look at this year's class, a lot of the guys that are considered NFL ready are guys like Matthew Golden, Emeka Buka. When you're talking about you want to replace J-Mo, give me a guy that has that type of upside because Jameson Williams was a first-round pick. If you want to replace J-Mo in this year's draft class, then give me a guy that has that upside. But in this year's draft class, there's not going to be as many compared to in future drafts. So I don't think that this is a stronger draft class. I think honestly, wide receiver, this is a weaker draft compared to what we see. Not saying that there's not good ones, but this is not the class to go replace J-Mo.
Look at him. Look at this guy.
I don't understand why he's upset right now.
I would like someone to go back 10 minutes ago and clip Klotzy saying this is a deep wide receiver class, and then him just
Boone. This is every wide receiver class since probably 2020 has been deep because how the game has evolved. But as far as pure talent, this is a deep defensive tackle class. There's not many like holy shit. But to say that this is a starter draft,
you're arguing. Don't cut me off.
You don't get what
I feel like you're arguing. I feel like you're arguing.
Off in the middle of what I'm trying to say and construing it. What I'm telling you is this is a good wide receiver class, but you said that I think this is like one elite wide. No, this is like a solid wide receiver class with good depth. But when you look at years past, like AJ Brown, DK Metcalf, those guys, Terry McLaurin went in the third round and that whole round. This is not that draft class. It's a solid draft in the second, third round. You can go find some guys that have starter upside, but
starter, not star.
Yes, and I think if you're replacing Jameson Williams and you're trying to do that in the second round, if Jaden Higgins is there, okay. Like I said, I'm not going to hate it, but just wait till next year's class when there's better talent at the top of the second round.
Wow. And then what if Jade Higgins is a lion?
I can't. The contradicting of takes. I cannot keep going.
Why does me saying like, oh, this is a good wide receiver class mean that this is one of the better, like there's going to this is one of the lower wide receiver classes we've seen. That doesn't make it terrible. Like it's good. It's not like a bad wide receiver class, but this is probably one of the worst wide receiver classes we've seen in the past 5 years.
All right. That's all I got. I mean, I just don't know what to say. Like it's just such a, like, your argument, the goalpost is moving so much. Like you've switched it to talking about if you have Jeremiah Smith coming out. Like you're acting like we need to draft
receiver classes.
All right, cut me off. Don't cut me off.
Go ahead.
See, it's pretty fun when we're on air going back and forth. We're able to cut each other off.
Boone.
That's called entertainment.
Go ahead, Boone.
The Jeremiah, like, we're not drafting, like, you don't want to draft the wide receiver first round this year. I bet you in 12 months, if we don't this year, you're not going to be like, take a wide receiver in the first round. Like, you're not. Like, I know you, Klotz. You're not. All I'm saying, yeah. Here, go ahead. Cut me off.
If Jamison Williams, so you have another year of JMO, correct? So now JMO's leaving. So when JMO leaves, what is there a clear, obvious need of where it's much easier to go in the first round and take when there's better talent there? You're talking about this year. It's a little early to go wide receiver.
You are moving goalposts and you're contradicting.
You're bringing
like,
up
I can't
Jeremiah
keep doing
Smith
this.
and Ryan Williams. I'm telling you, because those draft classes in the future are going to be better than this one. Because you look at Tedoroa McMillan, and right now, those are the wide receiver ones, and then it drops down. The talent in years coming with wide receivers are going to be better.
You keep saying the same thing that you were opposite on before. So as much as people you want to say, hey, Lucas is right. Lucas is talking out of both sides of his mouth, which is fine. I'll sit back and let it happen. He is right because he's saying both things.
You're acting like I hate the idea of taking a wide receiver, which I don't know why you're saying. In the first round, I do. In the second round, I said I like it. I don't love it.
So then what are we?
I don't know.
We are not talking about the first round. This last 20 minutes.
Yeah, you guys literally argued over
about
nothing.
The first round, class.
I've
been trying to tell you that for 10 minutes.
Why are you upset right now? I'm saying go in the first round.
Because you keep trying to attack me when we're not talking about that. I don't understand. You just literally argued about nothing.
You said your point. I said my point, and this is a receiver class that replaced Tim Patrick, not Jamison Williams. That was my point. So wherever problems you pulled out of that.
All right, Klotz, you the whole time you just and you ended it there about a first round wide receiver. We were never talking about the first round, and then you just said you agree with me. I would be fine if they did it in the second round. That was my argument from the jump. All of the people were like, "Oh, Klotz is cooking."
Like it now.
Klotz literally just agreed with what I said. He just agreed with what I said.
Hold on. What did I open my argument with? Booner, I 100% agree with you. They need to add a weapon in this draft class.
Okay. And then you contradicted yourself and said, but I actually don't think they should because next year's a better wide receiver class.
Okay,
Jeff,
this is perfect.
This is why we're done. We are done.
No. This is where you misunderstood me.
That is unbelievable. Misunderstood. I listened to it.
No, because obviously not. We're saying the same thing, but we're fighting right now. This is where I'm saying I don't think this is in my opinion, you don't take a wide receiver in the first 2 rounds. I think if you take an Isaac Tesla or Pat Bryant in this draft class, that's fine because there's going to be future draft classes where there's better wide receiver talent where you can take somebody else in those classes. Final point. I don't understand how that was misunderstood. Take a wide receiver 3 in the future in this draft. Take a wide receiver 2 in the future in next draft class, the draft class after.
Jeff, do you understand? And this is
you guys.
Where am I wrong? I'm confused.
The only thing you're wrong about is, and real quick, I'm just going to try and say this very slowly. And Jeff, you can tell me and adjust what I say.
Because I heard both.
You are agreeing, Klotz, that you wouldn't mind if second round, third, fourth round, if they take a shot on a guy, you wouldn't mind it, which is my exact point. But at the same time, you're like, and you go, but I wouldn't mind if they waited until next year because the draft class is deeper. Like, I just feel like it's like you can't have both ways. Like, pick your side and stay with it. Like, that's my point. Did I not say
add a wide receiver?
You're right no matter what, and I don't like that.
So
Jeff,
I can't say add a wide receiver.
Jeff's turn. Let Jeff mediate this.
Because Lucas, Lucas, what you're saying is what you said, and I want to make sure I'm hearing this right. You said you said you wouldn't like it. You wouldn't love it in the second. That's the highest. We're talking highest because first is like no go. You wouldn't love it in the second. You'd like it. And then after that, it's like, okay, like kind of take a wide receiver. You're saying that pick would be the wide receiver 3, probably. Obviously, we don't know. And then you're saying if you really want that dude, go get that dude in 2026 if you want to replace J-Mo.
Yes.
And then Boone's. So I think you guys were on the same page. You guys just yelled at each other for 15 minutes, literally about.
I tried not to. This was the time I tried not to
You
yell.
had the problem with what
because Boone agrees with that.
I
Boone was saying the same shit. Like Boone,
I said, take him back. The thing I don't like is you being like, there was a point in there, and I'll go clip it tonight. There was a point in there where you said, don't take a wide receiver this year. Wait till next year. But then you also are saying, I wouldn't mind if they did it. But then you're like, don't do it. Like, but you have to do one or the other.
Logically, early in the draft this year, don't take a wide receiver early in this draft when you can take a better one early in next year's.
But you wouldn't mind if they did in the second, third round.
I said if they take Jaden Higgins, because we keep saying if they take Jaden Higgins, like sure, like I'm not gonna be like, oh my god, I hate it, but I'm definitely not gonna be like jumping out of my seat, being like, yes. It's like, okay, I'll live with it. First round, I'll hate it, but second round, third round, go for it. To Jeff's point, but it's not like the reaction to taking next year's Jaden Higgins, who's probably going to be better at that spot. I'll be jumping up and down and excited because there's more of a need. There's so many needs on the defensive line and offensive line right now in the first round and second round that it's like we have clear positions of needs and there's good players there. Not saying you have to force an offensive guard, defensive tackle, but there's spots where you can strengthen up this team. Wide receiver and early on in the draft does not need strengthen. You can strengthen it in any draft, especially you can go strengthen depth this year and go get a starter next year.
Yeah, you now make up.
By the way, too, I'm not gaslighting Klotz. Klotzy said what he said. I'm sorry I called him out for it. And he broke it down and explained it way better there.
You guys
but
are
before it was not explained well at all. He was just on both sides of the teeter-totter, and he was going up and down by himself, playing both sides.
You guys are closer than you think. Two of the same.
We are.
I think we're
100%. You got to watch your words.
I'm saying something else, and I'm trying.
No, Klotz, when you just explained it there, it made sense. It actually makes sense. Before you said it on both sides, like wording, like you being like, I wouldn't mind if they did it this year. But next year's draft class is good, so I would really hate it if they did it this year. Like, what? Like, that's essentially what you did.
Hey, let's move on. We spent enough time yelling.
Now I look stupid because
you don't look stupid. You guys both look stupid because you fought about the same thing. So let's bring in our good friend here. It's funny because whenever Sean Murphy joins, it's always a bunch of shit flying.
Yeah, it's always post something.
So I think Sean's just kind of used to it at this point. But you guys know who Sean is. Covers the Detroit Pistons from half court. Our good friend does some great work, and the playoffs are this weekend. So Sean's going to be dialed. So coverage, check him out on Twitter or X at Sean Halfcourt from Half Court, doing a great job. It's actually one of the featured channels. You can check them out. But let's welcome him to the show, Mr. Sean Murphy. Sean, how we doing, my friend?
Boys, why do we have to fight? I want you all. You're all beautiful in your own way.
Yeah, I mean, Sean's always he's always walking on the sidelines when the boys are just yapping about some random thing. But Sean, no more wide receiver talk. All right, let's talk about a team that's in the playoffs. All right, and they're playing well, and I'm excited for them, and I'm fired up about them. It's the Detroit freaking Pistons, and I got a little beef, Sean, because they play. At least we found out it's an hour before the draft, but I was a little shook at that point because I thought we'd be covering the draft while the Pistons are playing, but at least you see some of it. But they play on Saturday, so game 1 in New York. We're dialed in. How you feeling on Thursday? We're a couple days away from it, Sean. How you feeling today? Confidence level?
Yeah, I mean, this is a great time for Detroit basketball. And as far as confidence level goes, I think, it's kind of, as of right now, if I had to put it on a scale of 1 to 10, I would say about a 6, just because, it's until you actually go and see this group do it in the playoffs, it's an entirely different animal than the regular season. However, the style of basketball that the Pistons play and the way that they like to approach the game translates perfectly to the playoffs, specifically how defensive oriented this team is, how physical they are, how gritty and grindy they are, like to be able to get through games and not let leads or anything like that keep them bogged down. The ability to fight through adversity is something that this group has showcased time and time again this season. And that's exactly what you need to be a young team that can survive and thrive in the playoffs, because they're about to go into one of the most hostile environments in the NBA, in the Madison Square Garden, with the absolute lunatics that are the New York Knicks fans. I mean, that is a hard that is a hardcore group of sickos right there. And I say that as a compliment. But, Detroit, as far as like, stylistically matchup wise, a lot of people, I think are so focused on the fact that not a lot of Knicks played in that game that the Pistons played. I believe it was the 10th of April. But if you look at like all the other times that Detroit's matched up, specifically their last 2 matchups in the Garden, the Pistons have looked very comfortable. So ultimately, we've been talking all year that if the Pistons get to this point, this is like the biggest win of this is that this is prime evaluation time for Trajan Langdon, and I think we're about to see exactly that.
Sean, I want to ask you one thing here, and I'm not going to ask for a specific player because I know you're going to say Tobias Harris, which shout out to you. I just want to get one kind of like, hey, what's this one thing that this Pistons team has to do very, very well to go into Madison Square Garden on Saturday, and I think it's Saturday and Monday, I think, to go in there and kind of get a win and put themselves in a position to win this series.
Yeah, the big thing is that they're going to need someone to create offense outside of Cade Cunningham on a more consistent basis. You're going up against a Knicks team that has gotten better as the season's gone on defensively, but it's not the same Tom Thibodeau teams that we've seen before where they're like top 5 in defense. This team hangs its hat on the offensive end. So if the Pistons get in a scoring battle, they're going to be kind of behind the 8 ball. But we all know what Cade Cunningham can do and what he's capable of. But the simple truth of the matter is he's going to be getting blitzed quite significantly in this series, and they're going to need someone else outside of a Cade Cunningham to create their own offense, whether that be like you mentioned, Tobias Harris, whether that be Dennis Schroeder, Asar Thompson. How effective is he going to be? Because we all know that they're going to sag off of him and allow him to be open by the 3-point line. Malik Beasley, what's his game going to look like in the playoffs? Historically, we've seen him struggle a little bit in the postseason, but also at the same time, we've never seen him play like this, like he has in Detroit. So it's almost like a completely different player. So there's a lot of different things, obviously, that have to go the Pistons' way. But I think the big thing is if they can have someone else outside of Cade that they can reliably get a bucket from, I think that's going to be the factor that keeps Detroit in these games and makes this series really uncomfortable for the Knicks.
Sean, we've been having the conversation kind of over, I would say, the last 2 weeks with Cade Cunningham, referring to him as a top 10 player in the NBA. What do you think this series means? Because for someone like me, I think Cade Cunningham is a top 10 player potential, but I think in the NBA, playoffs matter a lot to reach that level. What do you think winning a playoff series does for Cade as far as around the NBA, how he's viewed?
Yeah, I mean, this is when players' legacies are built, right? I think winning any playoff series or putting the Pistons back on the map and pushing them beyond the first round, it would really legitimize the Cade Cunningham, right? Like, I think to me, it's kind of similar to how it would almost kind of be similar to me of like when Paul George made his first playoff run with the Indiana Pacers and kind of announced to the league that, that he has arrived and that he's one of the premier, young players. Like, as much as we see guys go on runs in the regular season and like we talk about their potential, the true fruit is if we see them do that in the playoffs. And so obviously for Cade, I don't think this is like a defining series for him by any stretch of the imagination, but it is certainly going to tell us where he ranks today, because even though, again, the Knicks haven't been the greatest defensive team this year, they still have Mikal Bridges, they still have OG Anunoby, they still have Josh Hart, they still have a lot of guys that are more than capable defensively. So if Cade goes out and carries this Pistons through, through the first round, in my opinion, there's like no question that Cade's a top 10 player in the league.
Yeah, I mean, well, Sean, there's already these ESPN's picking against the Pistons. I mean, we've been through this. It seems like I shouldn't be surprised. That's just kind of how it's going to go. And I think the Knicks, I want to respect them. I think defensively, especially with Tibbs, they're going to be dialed in. We know how they are. We know they have length. They have guys that can step up in big moments. Your guy, I'll still say Jalen Brunson, your guy, Sean. He's panned out pretty well. He's a pretty good player.
Mm-hmm.
But then you have
I don't know. I was pretty stupid for that, Jeff. As you can remember, everyone was calling me a moron for that take.
Yeah, no, it's a terrible take. Even though I said I want nothing to do with them at 20 million. But let's focus on this series. Let's focus on the series. So Karl-Anthony Towns, Malik Beasley came out and he had some comments for Karl-Anthony Towns, man. And I guess the rumor around Cat is just how soft he is. What do you think of the matchup there with Jalen Duren and being able to kind of rattle him a little bit? Because I brought up the other day, it's going to be interesting because it seems like There's a couple guys on this Knicks team, specifically Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns, that if they're not getting calls, those are two guys that I believe can get rattled a little bit, especially in New York at home. And you know how the postseason works, man. They're going to hold that whistle. What do you think about Karl Anthony in this series and matching up with Duren and what Duren has to do to kind of keep him relatively in check?
Yeah, Cat is a very unpredictable player when it comes postseason time. He's mostly been known as a guy who doesn't necessarily deliver when the moment arises, but last season obviously he had a really good run with the Minnesota Timberwolves. I think the difference being he doesn't quite have an Anthony Edwards that he's playing behind anymore. And I think when you talk about like the matchups, it's not just Jalen Duren versus Cat, where I think Jalen Duren can really exploit and make Cat, have to work when he's playing defense. I also think that when you look at for Detroit, like another matchup that I'm really intrigued by is Karl Anthony Towns versus Isaiah Stewart, because when Isaiah Stewart's going to be put on Cat, you want to talk about, getting a guy flustered and having him rattled mentally. Imagine those interactions. So obviously Malik Beasley had those comments about Cat. To be honest with you, I don't read too much into those. I think some of it's just those guys used to play together. I don't know how much of it's playful, how much of it's gamesmanship. All I know is what really matters is what's going to happen on the court. And we've seen the Pistons, one of their weaknesses is when they play against stretch bigs. And if we're being honest, Karl Anthony Towns, one of the best stretch bigs in the league. However, having said all that, I think the Pistons have, a lot of reasons to feel optimistic that if they can attack the interior and make Cat work on the defensive end, that's going to leak over into his offense. So to me, that's really interconnected. And the more the Pistons can really take advantage of that matchup, the more likely they are to win this series.
Hey, Sean, did you see, and maybe you did, I'm sure you did, the Colin Cowherd stuff about, I think it was Colin Cowherd that said the Pistons are going to have more ejections than wins in this series.
Yeah, and that was actually after that. Colin Cowherd has more segments about the Pistons than games he's watched this year. So
yeah, that's fair.
I do want to bring up this because I've heard it. I've heard it on 97.1. I've heard it around everywhere, and I think that's one of the bigger concerns is the fouls, and specifically, I would say more specifically like Isaiah Stewart, because he is one of your best defenders. Do you think that there's going to be a way these guys, or like maybe the refs kind of don't call it as close as they did during the regular season? And then if it gets into foul trouble, like, is this thing going to kind of go downhill for the Pistons? Because it feels like that's, at least for me, like that. I'm looking at that game one. I said in the first quarter, we're going to find out if the Pistons can win this series just based off the refs.
Yeah, I think it's going to be how well the Pistons keep their composure, specifically in those high pressure situations. And it's going to be the shot creation that they can get are the two biggest factors, because like you said, Booner, like as much as we love this team's energy and, their willingness to fight and not back down to anybody, this team needs all of their players in order to get this series done. And if they're without, players for a game or the rest of a game because of an ejection or some form of altercation that happens, that doesn't bode well for anybody, for the Pistons, right? I think that's why a Knicks series over, say, like an Indiana or even like a Milwaukee was beneficial, because even though this Knicks team is scrappy, it's not like Indiana where there's like already some significant beef going into the series to where you would make you more concerned about some of those altercations. So I think it's an interesting line to walk, because it's not, because you want the team to still play with that energy and that emotion, because that's who this team is, but it has to be channeled energy. It has to be channeled emotion, because if you get out of control, that's going to be the Pistons' undoing, to your point. To me, like when I look at like foul trouble, I look at, like Jalen Duren, someone who can get in foul trouble very quickly. Cade Cunningham is someone that, the Pistons need to stay out of foul trouble. If he's someone that gets 3 fouls in the first half, that's obviously doesn't bode very well for them. So I think foul trouble certainly has to be one of the things that you look at, especially, just specifically these guys keeping their cool.
Sean, something that I think is going to be a fun storyline to watch, not only in this playoff series, but playoff series to come, is Asar Thompson, second-year player, and defensively he's been lights out, been a lot better at scoring the basketball this year as well. We've seen a couple games where he hasn't taken over, but he's put up double points and rebounds and with scoring. What do you think his impact is going to be with this series against the Knicks? Because they're both kind of gritty ball clubs, but Asar Thompson feels like he just has a perfect spot in this series.
Yeah, I think Asar Thompson, as far as his defensive impact is apparent because I think he's going to be the guy that they're going to put on Jalen Brunson, as the primary defender. And Jalen Brunson's been used to being guarded by guys that are bigger than him and faster than him throughout his entire career. He's never faced an athlete that's quite like Asar Thompson. With all due respect to a lot of Asar Thompson's one of those like 1% of the 1% type of athletes. The thing that is going to be interesting, and I kind of brought this up a little bit earlier, but how can Asar still score when they really start to lag off of him on the 3-point line? Because we've seen him, still be able to attack the rim and find opportunities and, still still score effectively, as the season's gone on. And to your point, Lucas, the more he's played, his scoring's, just only gotten better. So, since like February 1st, like he was averaging like 12 points a game and playing, really good basketball, only improving on that end. So for me, like when I just think of like Asar, it's if he can still find ways to score, get to the basket, get in the fast break and not let those, not let those opportunities where, he's just getting left wide open. If that takes him out of the game, that's going to make it a lot harder for him to stay on the floor. So to me, I still think with his burst and with his elusiveness and, his ability to finish by the rim, I think he's going to have no problem whatsoever still finding ways to be impactful. It's going to be to a level that he hasn't seen before. I mean, when you are able to hone in on a team in a 7-game series, you're truly able to adjust specifically to their personnel to a different level. So it's going to be interesting to watch, to say the least.
Yeah, Sean, I want to ask because the videos are now popping up. You see floating around now, but Jaden Ivey running around, doing workouts. He looks good.
Yeah, man.
Training. I would assume the safe assumption for all the Pistons fans, they even have a glimmer of hope is they have to win a series before you even maybe see him. But what do you make of the videos, man? It's just a possibility that if they do win this series, you may see Jaden Ivey in the playoffs at some point.
Yeah, I mean, it's great to see him actually running at full force and actually starting to, do more high intensity basketball action and, like actual things that makes it look like there's more of a chance of him coming back. It's hard to read off of those, off of those videos and images because it's like there was the video of him just jogging up and down the court a couple of weeks ago. It's like, okay, well, if he's just starting to run, then that's a completely different conversation than playing in an active NBA game. But having said all that, I think that if he is to come back, like you said, that it would more than likely be in the second round. It would be later in the preseason because these are really significant progressions. And I think the big thing is that he's looking comfortable and a lot of that burst and the Jaden Ivey that we know, it like very much still looks like it's there. But how much is, where's his conditioning at? Like how much, is he actually like looking ready to play in a game? Because it's not even just the fact that he's coming back into the lineup for the first time in almost 4 months. It's the fact that he's coming back almost 4 months in and, oh yeah, now you're playing your highest pressure basketball in your entire life and having to figure that out on the fly. So even if they do get Jaden Ivey back, it's going to be in some form of limited capacity. He's not going to play 30 minutes a night or anything like that by any stretch of the imagination. But if the Pistons are able to get him back for at least a little bit before the end of this postseason, I think that would make them not only feel a lot better about those extension conversations in the summer with the Jaden Ivey, but on top of that, I think it gives it makes you excited that you at least get to see what that all looks like when they are in a postseason series together.
Hey, Sean, I want to get your prediction for the series. What are we thinking? Are we Pistons in 6, 7, maybe Pistons in 4? How are you feeling?
Yeah, I think at the very least this one's going 6 or 7. To me, these two teams are very well matched up, and just the way that the Pistons like play with their grit, I just have a hard time, seeing this one not lasting quite a bit. I'm very back and forth on this one. I'll stick with the Pistons. I'll go with Pistons in 6. Just to support the hometown team and just to see, potentially us make a deeper run. But I mean, like the New York Knicks are a very legitimately good basketball team. This team was assembled to be able to contend with the Boston Celtics. So, I mean, it says a lot that we're even in this series and that, that the Pistons are in this position, but I think what makes them really dangerous is the fact that they are playing with house money from here on out. As long as they win a playoff game, any expectation that this Pistons group had for this season has already been wildly exceeded. So, whereas the Knicks, if you lose in a first round, some heads could roll, some conversations could be had. In Detroit, if you lose in the first round, you weren't even expected to be there. Awesome job. Like, good season, So I think those expectations and that psychological difference is also something pretty significant. So listen, man, I'm excited to watch it. It's going to be fantastic. And again, just be able to see a guy like a Cade Cunningham and Jalen Duren and Asar Thompson, to see these guys on the highest stage and to see what they're made of. Those are the exciting things when you talk about like thinking about what this group could be long-term.
Love it. Great stuff as always, Sean. And by the way, for people that don't, if you have social media, follow Sean. Subscribe also to the YouTube channel from Half Court. He's doing a great job covering it. Sean, my friend, we'll talk to you soon. I mean, recap either game 1, game 2. We'll get more about it, but appreciate you as always, my friend.
Boys, thanks for having me on. Anytime this postseason, I'm down to chat.
There you go.
Sean. Appreciate
Keep
it.
grinding, baby.
The GOAT. We'll talk to you soon. There he is, the man, the myth, the legend, doing a great job. We still have Lucas's full first round mock draft.
Klotzy.
Here he is.
Hey, Klotzy.
It's my turn. Yeah, but
I'm gonna do you a favor. I'm gonna be really quiet the rest of the show. I'm gonna
don't
be
you
very,
dare even.
I'm
Hey,
gonna
remember
be-
that show? Remember that show, Silent
I'm
Library?
gonna be very
Remember that
boring.
show?
Yeah, that's how this show's turning for Laner in the chat. We're gonna just
No.
It-
If the
it's
boys
like
ever
those-
got an invite to do like a Silent Library show,
Oh, that'd be
bring
so
that back.
sick.
That would be
Oh,
fucking
dude, I like go back and
Booner,
watch
you would
those
be
sometimes.
terrible. I don't know, because
Oh,
you can lock in.
terrible.
Boone. You can
That-
lock
I think, by the way, too, like I'm going back and forth with Laner. I think people think that like this is me outside of the show. So if you don't like it, I'm not changing. I'm not gonna be quiet. Like it won't happen. Laner, I'm sorry, but there's a reason I do it's not an act. I drink the Kool-Aid and yell. That's me. Go watch a different show if you don't like me, bud. There's a reason. There's a reason Amon Ross St. Brown posted me on his story or his Instagram and not you, Laner, because I'm entertaining. All right, I love Laner. He's a good guy. But no, I'm being serious, though. I won't change.
Yeah, seriously.
I'm not
I'm not
changing.
joking about that.
Hey,
Never
if you
change,
don't
son.
like an
Never
obnoxious
change.
Booner, sorry about it.
Oh,
Keep
that's
being you,
funny.
Boone.
I could be quiet. Imagine the quiet Booner.
Laner
That'd be-
420. Mike,
So-
Laner's probably just.
That's when we know when Boone's like actually mad. When like if Boone's not talking, he's pissed. Like
yeah,
if he's
man,
not just
I love the people. Someone said, never mind. Yeah, no, you're right, Klotzy.
Hey,
You're right.
Later,
Klotz always, he knows when I'm mad.
Later,
We'll get off the
Later
show.
got a
and be like,
crash
"Booner, you
out
good?"
out of you. He got a crash out of you.
Yeah, no, that wasn't a crash out. That was really just fun. I just enjoyed it.
All right, let's
if
get-
you guys want to see a real crash out,
Hey,
we can have a
Boone,
crash
No,
out.
no, we're
it's
good.
my turn.
It's Klotzy's turn.
All
Klotzy,
right,
mic down.
Klotzy, talk to me first round.
The hat? Do you want the hat?
Ball knower.
No,
No, we're about to find out if he deserves the hat. The ball knower, first ever full first round mock
1.0.
1.0. Let's get it started. Klotzy,
Come
talk
on
to
now.
me
Zoom
here,
in, zoom in,
Klotzy.
zoom in.
Don't worry, I got it. I
Come
got it.
on. All right, boys. Boone, I guess you're presenting my mock. Boone.
Nope. Sorry. Hold on. I got it. All right, hold on.
Here we go.
Let me cook. All right, there you go.
All right, boys. Hey, I'm letting you know right now, trades were made because the conversation that we had with Brad Holmes, where it was like, okay, I don't want to be stuck in this position where we're just using the example there of Luther Burden or a Nick Scourton. And I think there's going to be a lot of GMs in that spot. And this draft right now, there's not a lot of prospects where people are like, oh, I cannot afford to lose him outside of the top 3, in my opinion. I could even see the Patriots trading, but starting it off, fellas, the easiest pick in the draft, Cam Ward is going to the Tennessee Titans. I know there's been a narrative recently with Travis Hunter. How can he not be the number 1 pick? He's the best player. Listen, okay, Brian Callahan loves pocket quarterbacks. Cam Ward, he's not Joe Burrow, but he kind of has the same play style of he's got great footwork inside the pocket, can go outside of the pocket and make plays. He's not really a runner, can run. He's not going to be Joe Burrow. But I think when he looks at Cam Ward, he thinks that he can do a lot of the things that he did with Burrow in Cincinnati, plug it in. Cam Ward was hyping up Treylon Burks as one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. I think it's clear that he's going to the Titans. Number 2, the Cleveland Browns. Okay. They need a wide receiver. They need a quarterback. They need a linebacker. They need a defensive tackle. They need a safety. They need everything. So why not go get the prospect in the draft that we have not seen pretty much ever that is the best in the draft at 2 positions, at cornerback and wide receiver? You're getting the best player in the draft, arguably, at the 2nd pick. So Travis Hunter, number 2. And Jeff, I'm sorry. Shedeur Sanders is not going 3 overall with the Giants. I understand. Oh, the Giants visited with Shedeur Sanders last second.
No, I love this spot. I love the spot you have
They
him.
visited Jalen Milroe. They visited Tyler Shuck. They were going all around the country this week, finalizing things with the quarterbacks. But if you're the New York Giants, you take Abdul Carter. You take the best player available. And then number 4, Mike Vrabel was really considering trading this pick out because I think Will Campbell, good offensive lineman. I'm not saying that he's not. But when you go back in previous drafts, I mean, Penei Sewell went 7th overall. And I think it's very, very clear to say Will Campbell's not Penei Sewell. So I would not be shocked if the Patriots traded out of here. But I think it's so important to protect Drake May because he will not progress whatsoever if he's not protected. They had one of the worst O-lines in football last year. To go with a bad running game, you protect Drake May and you help that run game. You go get Will Campbell. And we got to trade, boys. We got to trade the San Francisco 49ers.
Bold.
It is bold, but there's been rumors that John Lynch, he's calling inside the top 6. And I think they're trying to make a move because you look at how much draft capital they have late in this draft. They can afford to move up. And I think it's important that they get key pieces right now that they're about to sign Brock Purdy to a big deal, most likely. Like Booner said when I was like, hey, Niners should take Shedeur. They're not going to, but they're going to re-sign Brock Purdy. You need to get young talent to surround him with. Go up, you get Mason Graham to pair with Joey Bosa. They just let a ton go on their defensive line. So going up and getting the guy with Mason Graham who can help both in the run game and the pass game, home run hit for them, allows you to reset that front 7. And I mean, Mason Graham, Nick Bosa, and Fred Warner, that's disgusting to think about. And then 6, boys, probably one of the easier picks in mocking this draft at this point, Ashton Gentry to the Raiders. They need a running game. Not much to say about there. 7th overall, boys.
Oh, my
Kyler, Warren, tight end. But I'm going to pull something up here, boys, because we know great wide receiver. But this is really, hold on, let me make sure I can get it correctly here. Why you take Tyler Warren. This is why the Jets will take Tyler Warren. Not only can he catch passes, boys, they need help blocking. And what is one thing that Tyler Warren can just fucking do better than anybody in this class, anybody in next class, the class after that, is fucking block. Okay, and he's a great wide receiver. He was playing shotgun, taking snaps at quarterbacks, direct handoffs. He's just an offensive weapon. So the Jets are getting a great offensive weapon here and somebody who can block. I just think it's the best player available because kind of going back to, let me get this off the screen though, boys. Going back to the argument that I was saying about the draft class with the offensive linemen, I think Membu falls in that same conversation where Membu's the 10th best player in this draft class as far as a top 10 pick. But is he somebody that you're taking 7th overall and you're relying on him to kind of be a pinpoint offensive tackle? Because Fashanu, you don't know what he is, and you're going to be bringing a rookie quarterback in here soon. Do you want to reach for a tackle to protect him for the next 10 years, or do you want to get a surefire best friend, an offensive weapon, and blocker for a quarterback in Tyler Warren? Another big trade here, boys. Seattle Seahawks trading with the Carolina Panthers. We know how much hell the Carolina Panthers are in just as far as an organization right now. This is a weak draft as far as what we see in prospects. And when I look at Jalen Walker, boys, Mike McDonald over there in Seattle, licking his chops. I think Seattle Seahawks with their 3-4 defense are looking at Jalen Walker and seeing a lot of the hype that a lot of these NFL GMs and the news going around right now. I think Jalen Walker goes top 10, but I think a team goes up there, and this is our guy. We're going to make a move for him. I think Carolina can afford, in the state that they're at right now, to trade back, add more capital in this draft and next year's draft, and let somebody fall to him. And here comes your boy, Jeff. Number 9, the Saints. The Saints, they're taking Shedeur Sanders. I think the Saints do need to take a quarterback, and if I'm sitting there down in New Orleans, I know that I don't like Shedeur Sanders top 3, especially in this draft class with Abdul Carter and Travis Hunter available. But at 9th overall, with how this board is sitting right now, I'm taking Shedeur Sanders if I'm the Saints. Kellen Moore, when you look at the quarterbacks that he has had, Dak Prescott, good, not great. Justin Herbert, very good, but when you look at where he was in his career, very young quarterback, I don't think it's fair to call him great yet. And then Jalen Hurts, good, not great, but when he's in a good situation, he plays great. So I think Shedeur Sanders could be that potentially. Let Spencer Rattler start even this year, but add more talent around him in the future. I don't know if this is the best spot for him, but I think this is a realistic spot. And I think 9th overall with this draft class for Shedeur is not bad whatsoever. And then 10th, boys. I know this is a player that I don't like in Shamar Stewart, but I think there's NFL GMs that love Shamar Stewart. And if you look at the board right now, with how it sits, offensive line could be in play. You're thinking Membu, but Membu's pretty much a right tackle. When you look at what Ben Johnson just said about Darnell Wright, he thinks of Darnell Wright as a Penei Sewell type of guy. And where does he play? Right tackle. And they just invested heavily into their offensive line. And they've really only met with 2 guys when it comes to first-round edge rushers, Shamar Stewart and Mykel Williams. And when I look at Montez Sweat, what is he? He's big, he's athletic, he's fast. Not that high in sack production, puts a lot of pressure on there. They got Jervon Dexter. I think that the Bears, Ryan Poles of all people, are going to take Shamar Stewart top 10. It's a reach in my opinion. I think in a lot of people's opinion, but it's a risk that the Bears of all teams are going to take. So I think Shamar Stewart goes 10th. And then the Jaguars are back on the clock. And I'm like, oh, this falls perfectly for Jacksonville. You allow yourself to get more trade value. And then who are you going to take in the at top 5? Mason Graham. Trade back. Now you get Walter Nolan, in my opinion, 2nd or 3rd, however you look at it on the board. But I think Walter Nolan is going to be the 2nd defensive tackle taken. Jacksonville, great first draft for your boy out of LA. What's his name? Hefe?
Gladstone.
If Gladstone does this, and I'm a Jacksonville Jaguars fan, I love this. Give Mykel or Walter Nolan. And then another trade. Jonathan Gannon, Arizona Cardinals, run a 4-3 defense. They just got Josh Sweat. Boys, I want you to guess. I won't even make you try to guess. Who is the Justin Jones is their starting. They have Darius Robinson, but as of right now, Justin Jones is their starting defensive end on the other side of Josh Sweat. And Josh Sweat is not an every down defensive end. He's somebody that you can put in there, plug and play. You can kind of move around there, but he's not a run stopper. When you look at Mykel Williams, boys, he carries all the intangibles that you want out of a defensive end. I think NFL GMs and the NFL community are much higher than him than some people are in the mock drafts, but I think Mykel Williams goes high in this draft. And I think what they're doing here with Arizona is they're trying to jump in front of Atlanta, because when you look at Atlanta, they're probably going to take a defensive end. And then I think Dallas, after seeing Shamar Stewart go, they're all right with trading back. So Jonathan Gannon, those boys, they get their guy at 12 with Mykel Williams. And then Membu falls perfectly to the Dolphins. They need to protect Tua. You really don't have to take much into account with this. This is a perfect pick. 14, kind of a questionable pick, I think. But I think long-term, when you look at where the Indianapolis Colts are at, they just signed Tre'Davious Ward. He's 28 years old. The other guy that they got in the room is Kenny Moore. He's 29 years old. And Will Johnson, in my opinion, it should be a top 10 pick. But the questions with him about his 40 time and everything like that, he's going to fall. He shouldn't. They got Nico Collins in that division with CJ Stroud. They just drafted Brian Thomas in Jacksonville, and Cam Ward's about to be added to the Titans. They need help on that defense. Their front 7, as far as the defensive line, is very good. Linebackers could be improved. You could go Jahad Campbell here, but I think he falls. You can see right to the right of that. But when I look at Will Johnson, I think it's perfect for the Indianapolis Colts. They have not had a legitimate corner there since Vontae Davis. Go get Will Johnson. That's a cornerback one of the future that you could let develop behind Tre'Davious Ward. And 20, boys, or scroll up, Efe. Missed like 6 picks. There we go. 15, Mike Green, Atlanta Falcons. Like I said, the Cardinals, they went up, they got Mykel Williams. I view Mike Green as probably the 3rd, 4th, 5th, however you want to rank it, very similar tier as a guy like Mykel Williams. Atlanta so badly needs a pass rusher. There's somebody, Vic Beasley had a one-off year where he went nuts, but they have not had a true pass rusher. Raheem Morris, defensive coach, he's going to add somebody in that edge room, and I think Mike Green's sitting there, BPA, perfect fit, and then pick behind it, Cowboys at 16, they trade back from 12. If Shamar Stewart's there at 12, I could very easily see the Cowboys take Shamar Stewart. We talked with Eberflus down at the Combine, boys. They've met with them a ton. And I think losing DeMarcus Lawrence, they're going to be aggressive at getting a defensive end. But right now, we just saw 3 of them go off the board. They trade back. They add value. Take Amarian Hampton. Get a good running back. And to go with Rico Dowdle, they can create a nice 1-2 punch. But Amarian Hampton, year 1 can give you 1,000 yards, give you something out of the receiving game. They need a running back. Get the second best running back in the draft. At 17, Cincinnati, Donovan Izaraku, your boy Boone, he goes there. I look at Trey Hendrickson, I look at Donovan Izaraku. Trey Hendrickson much bigger, but what can Trey Hendrickson just relentlessly do? Get to the quarterback. I think that's what Donovan Izaraku is going to do in the NFL. They got Defensive tackle, Chris Jenkins. Got Chris Jenkins last year. They re-signed, I believe it was BJ Hill. I don't think they go interior of the defensive line here. They go outside. He's a rock who's a pocket collapser on the outside, and he can get to the quarterback with athleticism. I think that's a lot of what Trey Hendrickson is. His future is very uncertain, so be able to replace him, and also Sam Hubbard left. So they need another edge regardless. And then 18, this is one of my favorite picks in the draft. The Carolina Panthers, they're getting a haul if they're trading back from where they were at from, I believe it was 8 to 18. And then they're able to get Teteroa McMillan, the wide receiver that a lot of people are mocking him in the top 10. But I do not think that a wide receiver goes top 10 in this year's class, boys. I really don't. I know I was high on Matthew Golden and taking him top 10. But I think, to their point, Teteroa McMillan, he's more of a fit for Carolina than a Matthew Golden. They got Jalen Coker last year. They have Xavier Legette, who's going to play a lot in the slot, and they have Adam Thielen. They don't have a big body wide receiver. So give Bryce Young that guy. You get him at 18. I think it's great value, and he's somebody that can make a difference year one and give you production. Then Jahdae Barron, 19, boys. I think this is another great pick. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers secondary last year was just obliterated late in the season. You add Jahdae Barron, he can play at nickel, he can play outside, he can play at safety. Todd Bowles is going to be able to love to add this piece to their defense, and I think he's just somebody that's going to have a Brian Branch type of play style, and I think he translates very well, will be one of the better players of this draft class. 20, Matthew Golden, my wide receiver 1. He falls to Denver. Bo Nix, Sean Payton. He goes inside of Portland Sun. I think it's a perfect fit. They don't have to move, and they get the guy that I think fits perfectly for them in this offense. 21, I do not think the Steelers take a quarterback in the first round. I don't. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to land there, and that's probably a conversation that him and the Steelers have had where it's like, I'm going to go here, but I want you to make this team better so I have a better chance of winning. They could go offensive line. But if you look at the Steelers, they love Kenneth Grant. And sitting there, they have done a lot of research on Kenneth Grant. He's on the high on their boards from everything that I saw. He's probably going to land there if he's available. I know they have Cam Hayward, but he's aging. TJ Watt, uncertainty there for the future. They're adding a new piece to their defensive line that can carry them for the next 4 to 5 years. I like Kenneth Grant a lot. Then the Chargers. I actually love this pick.
It's a Harbaugh guy. Harbaugh guy.
It's a Harbaugh guy. Do you know what Emeka Buka did to Harbaugh's defense as a freshman?
Hey, you're welcome, Klotz. You're welcome.
Nine catches,
pick.
125 yards, 1 touchdown. Okay, he nuked him as a freshman.
Via boom.
And I think when he sees that, he sees what he has with Ladd McConkey. You let him and Ladd go loose on the inside, and then you have Quentin Johnson on the outside. You can add a tight end later. You don't take Colson Loveland here if Emeka Buka is available, and you want to help out Justin Herbert and add an offensive weapon. I don't see how that makes sense. But sitting at 23 could be a reach in some measures, boys. Trey Amos, I think outside of Travis Hunter, Will Johnson, he's the third best outside corner.
He's great.
When I look at Jahdae Barron, he's not somebody that I see on the outside. He's a nickelback, but Trey Amos out of Ole Miss, Jair Alexander, Boone, you brought it up a bunch over the last 2 years. 1, he hasn't been healthy, and 2, his future has just been like, when is Jair Alexander going to leave? It's just a matter of time. Outside of that, they have no one at the cornerback spot, boys. I wouldn't be shocked if they trade back here, but if they're staying here, I don't see a good trade situation, so I take the best corner available. One of the better players too, especially at the outside corner spot, Trey Amos. I think he goes on to be a really good corner in the NFL. Some things he has to work on with man coverage, but he sees the field very well, going to be creating turnovers. They get their cornerback 1, maybe 2 of the future, but that room needs help badly, especially in a division with Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jamison Williams, Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison. You can keep going down the line, but the Packers need help in that secondary. Trey Amos, that's what they get. They can go defensive line later. Then Malachi Starks, I would not be surprised at all because the Vikings, I believe, only have like 4 to 5 picks in this draft. If Malachi Starks is not there or a clear position of need player where it's like BPA is staring them right in the face, I think they trade back. But Malachi Starks is sitting there. You take him. Harrison Smith, I understand he's there, but he's like 50 in dog years when it comes to NFL. He's going to be hanging up the cleats soon. They just lost Cam Bynum to the Colts, so you add another safety that can play nickelback as well. Like I said, I just listed off the weapons in this division. Does not hurt to have Malachi Starks. Will probably be the best safety in this draft class. Josh Simmons to the Texans. Buckeye protecting the Buckeye. Josh Simmons, I'll be willing to, we'll put a pizza bet, boys. Multiple pizzas. Josh Simmons, when you look back in this 5 years, Josh Simmons will be the best offensive tackle in this draft class. I have no doubts about that. but there's doubts about the injury, so he's going to fall. If the Houston Texans get Josh Simmons at 25, CJ Stroud is going to be protected, being playing better for the next 5 years than if Laramie Tunsil was there, because Laramie Tunsil, for whatever reason, I think Laramie Tunsil is still a very good player. He kind of struggled last year, was falling off a little bit. You get a young offensive tackle to protect CJ Stroud in the future, home run. Then you get another tackle right behind him, Kelvin Banks. Kelvin Banks is one of those players that can go really high or he can go really low, because I think what he can translate to be is very good. But there's even, like, if you turn on the tape, boys, you can find in big games Kelvin Banks struggles, and he's not a clear tackle. He could be a guard. People hope that he can translate to be a tackle, but there's a lot of talk about him being a guard. And when the film looks like that at tackle in big games, I don't think he's going to be up there with the Membus and Will Campbells. Could he go higher? Yes. My board didn't fall that way, but I think 26 for the Rams, great pick for them. Colson Loveland could go here. Gray Zabel could go here. But I think right now Kelvin Banks is higher on the board. I think you could look at Josh Connerly's examples like that, but Kelvin Banks at 26 is a steal. 27 to the Ravens, James Pierce. Leave it at that. It's a Ravens pick. If he's on the board at 27, I would be shocked. I would be shocked if James Pierce was not the pick if it wasn't Malachi Starks. And I kept the Lions at 28, boys. And there was one reason. And one reason only, because I think he's going to fall. Not confirmed. But Jahad Campbell, dealing with the shoulder injury, guys.
Perfect.
He's a top 15 pick. But when you're a linebacker, shoulder injuries matter. And what you're talking about, you got to tackle running backs, you got to tackle and cover tight ends, you got to take on offensive linemen, and he's got a smaller frame. So there's a real shot that Jahad Campbell falls. And just that the way the board fell, it's not like the Lions were waiting for Jahad Campbell at 28. But, like, let's look at the players on the board right now. I mean, what team really needs a linebacker? Maybe the Rams, but at the end of the day, there's still players that I thought that Brad Holmes would be comfortable falling there. Jahad Campbell, again, not an immediate need, but you're sitting there at 28. Boone, to your point, it's BPA. And yes, he's not a defensive end. He's not an offensive line, not a defensive tackle like we're clamoring for, but he can get to the quarterback. Alex Anzalone, as much as I love him, contract coming up. Malcolm Rodriguez, love him, contract coming up. And I think he's somebody that when you look at Kelvin Shepherd and we say, hey, we just got Jahad Campbell for you in the first round, he's going to be doing backflips and somersaults, because that is the ultimate Swiss Army knife to throw around with your front seven. He can develop as an edge rusher. There's times where he looks really good, but then you turn on the film and he's going up against Will Campbell. Will Campbell's just ragdolling him. He's throwing him across the line of scrimmage. So I don't think he's polished as an edge rusher, but he's definitely somebody that can, Derek Barnes dealing with an injury, rotate with Jahad Campbell. Jack Campbell, get off the field for a second. Alex Anzalone, get off the field for a second. Jahad Campbell, go. There's an injury. Like, Jahad Campbell is just someone that can fly around the football field, create havoc, boys. He was a monster at Alabama. And we know what Brad Holmes think of Alabama players. He played with Terrion. I don't know if he ran into Brian Branch because that was a little bit long time ago. But I think you add Jahad Campbell, he's a difference maker. Year one when you get in the playoffs, and then think about in the future when it's Jahad Campbell and Jack Campbell. Yes, sir. Sign me up for that. So Jahad Campbell at 28 is the pick, boys. Not necessarily a position of need, but it's a defensive weapon. And that's what the Detroit Lions need with their front seven. So Jahad Campbell at 28. Scroll down here, Hefe. Finish the last four picks here out.
Got it.
29. Jeff, you're going to hate this pick, but I love it. This is one of my favorite picks too. Travion Henderson, the running back out of Ohio State, to the Washington Commanders. Who's their head coach, boys? Dan Quinn. When Dan Quinn went to the Super Bowl with the Atlanta Falcons, what was outside of Julio just an offensive weapon that they had? Tevin Coleman and Devontae Freeman. Looking at this board right now, Jaden Daniels, he needs protected more. Okay. What's a great way to start protecting Jaden Daniels? Handing the football off instead of designing runs for Jaden Daniels. Austin Eckler was there last year. Travion Henderson can do a lot of the things that Austin Eckler does. And the knock with Travion Henderson is, well, he's a little bit smaller framed. He might not be able to be an every down back. Well, great thing they have Brian Robinson there. So Brian Robinson, Jaden Daniels, Travion Henderson. That is a disgusting trio, a young trio too, of running backs and a quarterback play. The rushing attack in Washington would be lethal. So Travion Henderson, I think there's a real chance he goes in the first round, because what you can watch what he does in pass blocking, he lays dudes on their ass. And he gets comped to Jahmyr Gibbs all the time. Hate that comp because he doesn't have the vision that Jahmyr Gibbs does. But you watch him in the open field after he catches a screen. Travion Henderson's a big play waiting to happen. They got Terry McLaurin. They got Deebo Samuel, but they don't really have like a game breaker. They don't have somebody that can open up the field for them. Travion Henderson does that for you. The Giants, they're calling back up. The Bills, they're sitting on the clock here. We can go wide receiver. We can go corner. There's a couple places we could go, but here come the Giants, and they're getting their guy. He's falling. It's probably the draft right now. When does Jackson Dart go? He goes 30th. Brian Dable, Joe Sheen, they're keeping their jobs, and they're also giving themselves a long-term option because if they were to take Shedeur Sanders at pick 3, he's not starting week 1. You signed Russell Wilson. You signed Jameis Winston. He's got to beat them out, and you can get Jackson Dart, who I don't think is a whole lot farther down than Shedeur Sanders, and you keep your job in doing so because you have a quarterback now, quote-unquote, with Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston, the quarterback of the future with Jackson Dart, and you're probably going to be sitting in the top 10 next year regardless, and you can add weapons for Jackson Dart. I think taking Abdul Carter 3rd overall, you're doing the best for the team right now and in the long term. So go ahead, be selfish, trade up, get that quarterback that can keep your job, keep the future, and give the city some hope, and Jackson Dart, let him sit and develop with Brian Dable, who was able to develop Josh Allen into the quarterback that he eventually turned on to be. Then 31. This is where I was having kind of like, Josh Connerly or Gray Zabel. I look at the Chiefs, and they have Trey Smith. They just re-signed Trey Smith. They have Jawan Taylor, who has been just inconsistent as all hell for them over the last couple of years. And I'm looking at Josh Connerly. Clear tackle, Big Ten, Gray Zabel, guard, center. What is he? And it's not that he's going to be bad, but I want a guy, if I'm picking somebody to protect Patrick Mahomes, the best quarterback in the NFL, and I'm using a first-round pick on him, I want, hey, this guy's a clear offensive tackle, cool. We don't have to figure anything out. Day one, go ahead and start. Because I think Jawan Taylor, if they were to take a Josh Connerly, bye, see ya, you're gone. Like they don't need him. Like Josh Connerly can come in. He's somebody that if he's not picked in the last 4 picks of the first round, he's probably going to go the first 4 picks in the second round. He's a clear guy that is on the top of this draft class. If you're pure offensive tackles, you get him to pair with the other guys that are going on with I forget the guys who they signed out of San Francisco, but they signed him to protect right side. You can put Josh Connerly left or right side. Doesn't matter. I think he's somebody that's going to translate to the NFL, protect Patrick Mahomes. And then, Boone, you made the same pick here, and I was agreeing with everything that you said. Maxwell Harrison, 32 overall. One, he's a zone guy. What do the Eagles like to run a lot with Vic Fangio? Zone. They have Cooper DeJean on the inside. They got Quinyon Mitchell on the outside, and behind them, they got Reed Blankenship, who they were able to re-sign, and they also had Sidney Brown, the safety out of Illinois last year, who was supposed to be very good, but he got hurt. So they got a lot of talent in that secondary. Again, it was just BPA. Like, you could take Nick Scorin. You could take Landon Jackson. Maybe if you want to, you could take Colson Loveland here. But I just think Maxwell Harrison is the best player available right now, and that's why I took at 32, boys. So I know the clear question that everybody's asking. Where's Gray Zabel? Where is Colson Loveland? Didn't fall that way, boys. We see all the time in the second round, there's players that you're going, how aren't they supposed to be? How are they still there? Gray Zabel, Colson Loveland, those are the 2 guys. And when we do 2.0, I would say one, if not both of them will be in there, but just the way the board fell in this one, boys, they weren't picked. Jesus, 103 private chats. What are you guys talking about over here?
So listen, Klotz, you did a great job.
I love you so much, Klotz, dude. I'm not gonna lie.
I like that you went bold on a couple of these. I think the only one I'm not a big fan of is the Cardinals trading up for a player that'll probably be there. That's the only thing I don't agree with. But
go ahead.
It makes sense for the Cowboys. I just don't see it making sense for the Cardinals because he'll probably be there. You know
I wrote that down. I wrote Arizona. Why trade up when you can get Mike Kell at 16 either way?
I don't think that it's clear because even like Indianapolis, they took Latu last year, but then they hold on, let me look. So I'm not making sure that it's completely terrible in what I'm about to say. I can't think of their other defensive linemen, but he had 9.5 sacks last year, but he's terrible against the run. You get Latu and you get Michael Williams, but then you also got to worry about Atlanta. Like, where did Michael Williams go to college? Georgia. Like, I think if anybody's going to love Michael Williams, it's going to be the Atlanta Falcons. So I understand maybe they traded up a little bit too far, but once Shamar Stewart goes, I think that instantly on the clock for the Cowboys is Marion Hampton. Who's going to take a Marion Hampton here? No one. So they're calling. I think it's just the Cardinals trying to move up, trying to go get their guy. Like I said, I think there's multiple teams that it's like, hey, this draft isn't great. Who do we love? we're walking away with this guy, and the Arizona Cardinals are making sure that they're getting their guy. Maybe they traded up a little bit too much, but they're sitting happy knowing they just got Michael Williams.
I see. And if you believe that's going to happen, that's fair. I just don't think there's a world. Like, I don't think Shamar goes top 10. I don't think, and I do like Mike Kell a lot. I've said that before. I just don't think. I think Mike Green ends up being the next edge. Could be wrong. I just don't see there being like Shamar 10, Mike Kell 12, and then a couple picks, Mike Green, and then you still have Donovan Izaraku on the board. Like, I just don't think it's going to fall like that to where like the Cardinals could have. I feel like that would be like a bad GM move. Like, they would be sitting there like, yeah, we got played. Like the team played us.
I disagree.
Which is fair though, if you think different.
Yeah, I just think that they run.
I don't see this. I don't see the Seahawks training into the top 10 either. If it happens, it happens. I just don't see a world. I wouldn't be shocked like if the Seahawks trade back to just get more assets. I don't see.
Yeah, because Jalen Walker, you trade up that far to get Jalen Walker. This dude better be special.
I mean, guys, when you look at what he can do.
No, I guess you guys have been higher on
Micah Parsons upside. Like, you're drafting a linebacker, you're drafting a guy that can get after the quarterback.
Micah Parsons.
And watch him play and watch Micah Parsons coming out. Micah Parsons played a lot off the ball. Like, when he played in Dallas, he was originally an off the ball linebacker that would rotate to the defensive line. And they're just like, fuck it, you are too good at the quarterback, getting to the quarterback. We're keeping you on the defensive line.
Yeah.
And I think that's the type of progression that with a good defensive coach like Mike McDonald, Jalen Walker can have. I think Mike McDonald looks at that as like, you don't find these in every draft. Like, I get
what you're saying. I just want to address a couple things too.
Okay.
Well, one of them, the Steelers won. I would like you to apologize to me. I know I took a quarterback yesterday out of just purely Mike Tomlin's I did it based off of the reports. I did my draft based off of what I'm hearing, what I'm reading, everything like that. What I would do as a Steelers GM is different, and I've been pretty ongoing about this for months, that I say you do not draft the quarterback. You either get defense and you keep stacking that, or you go weapons. There's someone in this show who kept calling me dumb for doing that, and there's someone who all of a sudden now
I'll give you your flowers, Boone. As the days go on, I don't think it's likely that if Shedeur Sanders, it does not
people
make
in the chat now agree that Klotz is saying it. Oh, it's crazy. All right, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, you were right, because I even brought it up to you the other day. I was saying, like, but you said it originally. I'm not saying that I was like, oh, but the other day I was like, I'm hearing stuff that Shedeur, the Steelers don't want him. So it's like, if they're out on Shedeur, I'd imagine they're out on Jackson Dart. What I've seen is even mock drafts that people have that are Steelers fans, they want Kenneth Grant. You look at the Steelers, what do they pride themselves on? That defensive line. They always have a great defensive line. And with Cam Hayward getting older, TJ Watt looks like he might not re-sign. You got to rebuild that defensive line and keep it strong. You got Highsmith there for a long time.
I agree. I've been saying you either you go weapons or you keep that defense up to par in the first round. I was told for a long time, Booner, you're crazy.
So we got some super chats before we end the show.
Hold on, can we just finish this job? I got to pull out my sticky note that I wrote for Klotzy. Oh, okay. It's gone. It's gone.
Better not be, Boone.
It's gone. The sticky note is gone. Oh man, it said Gray Zabel on there. And Gray Zabel and one other player. No Gray Zabel, which Gray Zabel's a lock to go in the first round.
That's because so my explanation for that, I think we see Gray Zabel a lot of times, like he's able to fall to the Lions. You know what I mean? And Jahad Campbell's there, so I think they go Jahad Campbell. Then the Commanders, they could take Gray Zabel, but the inside of their offensive line really is not their problem, it's their tackles. And then again, like I think Travion Henderson, there's a home run hit. He's not going to be available for them where they pick in the second round. And then so where I'm deciding between Gray Zabel, where I was like, oh, he could go here. But I'm thinking about it more was when him and Josh Connolly. And so I think Josh Connolly, he's being mocked outside the first round a lot of times. I wouldn't be surprised if a GM looks at, hey, Gray Zabel, he's really good at a lot of things, but I know Josh Connolly's great at this one thing. And I just think that's what separates him. I'm not saying that I think Gray Zabel's bad, but I could definitely see a situation when you talk about Patrick Mahomes, North Dakota State, guard/center, or
Gray Zabel will get drafted before Josh Connolly 10 times out of 10 times in this draft.
Maybe, Boone, but again, it could fall the way. I just think where the Chiefs are sitting, I think Josh Connolly was the better fit there.
There was someone else too. I can't remember who you didn't have.
Colson Loveland.
Oh yeah, which that's fair enough. There's a chance, but Greg Zabel, there's zero chance he goes behind.
Don't
Josh
hate it.
Connolly.
He'll probably be in my 2.0.
So-
So I'm not going to hate that take.
So Pennywise, he commented on your pizza bet. 5-year pizza bet's crazy work. I mean, that's
Josh Simmons.
To be fair, you said a pizza bet. You didn't really say like the details of it, and you just moved on.
If he's not, I'll owe you guys each 5 pizzas.
Okay.
5
Boone, you want to
years,
go ahead
we'll
and take
count.
this one?
So what am I supposed to do? I don't know how to do accents. Am I actually cheesed fam? Riley Green is back from the dead, you yot.
Yeah, you.
Yot. I'm actually cheesed fam. Riley Green is back from the dead, you yot.
Kendrick would never. Kendrick would never.
Stop it. Stop.
I don't know if that was like. I don't know if that was. Canadian
Shout
or
out,
not.
shout out Pennywise, man. Shout out Easy, dude. Easy is a goat. Appreciate that, man. Much love to you all, man. What a great show. Great show today. Tomorrow we got our last full first round mock. So boys will be locked in. The last one. You gotta leave it all out there on the field. You gotta leave it all out there.
Just one draft where Shedeur doesn't go top 3 is all I'm asking for. Please, Jeff. It's not going to happen.
We'll see how I'm feeling.
Let it die.
No, we'll keep it semi-realistic. Not saying it's not realistic if he goes top 3, but we'll see what a pick I have. We'll see what happens. But appreciate you all. Much love to you all. We just hit a 13.1 yesterday.
Shout out, man.
Boys, real quick, want to say this is our 300th show. 300.
Hey,
Come on.
that was
Big,
loud. Sorry, 300 though,
three.
boys. How about that? What a
300
wow.
show, man.
That's crazy. That's a
Yep.
lot of shows.
13,000. Just
13,100,
13,100
300
Instagram.
show.
Shout out Boom and holding that down.
23K on Insta. Oh yeah, we're about to be at 5 on Twitter, which we should be a lot higher. But hey, we're getting there.
Hey, learning experience.
The people are showing out, man. We love you. We'll be back
Love you.
tomorrow, Friday. Be there. Previewing the Pistons game later in the show, talking more draft, getting our full first round mock. It'll be a great show. But until then, we will catch you all.
Love you guys a ton. Peace.
You better go to fucking DraftKings on draft night, too. I'll be disappointed if you don't. Bad
Draft
move.